Hi guys. I made a paid service in Telegram where you will find a great collection of fanfiction audiobooks organized and regularly updated. What you get? An unlimited access to the full audiobook library. New fanfiction audiobooks added regularly. You can play audios directly from Telegram anytime. Joining our service is available through a monthly subscription of $5. You can pay using PayPal or Ko-fi. So what are you waiting for? Send me a message on Telegram or Discord. I will provide the payment details. After the payment is confirmed, you will receive access to the private Telegram channel containing all audiobooks. If you enjoy fanfiction and prefer listening instead of reading, this library is made for you. Message me anytime to join.
51, Chapter 51, The Donna Rules. Chapter 51, The Donna Rules. Donna's apartment was a revelation. Not because it was fancy, though it was nicer than mine, with actual furniture that matched in art on the walls, but because it was so completely her. Organized chaos. Books stacked everywhere, not on shelves but in piles that somehow made sense. A record player in the corner with vinyl scattered around it. Plants that were actually alive. I stood in her kitchen holding a bottle of wine while she searched for a corkscrew. I know I have one. I used it last week. She opened another drawer. Or maybe I left it at the office. No, that's crazy. Who takes a corkscrew to work? You, probably. She pointed at me. Fair. Found it eventually, wedged between takeout menus and a stack of unopened mail. I opened the wine while she pulled down glasses mismatched, one from a college she didn't attend, another that said, "World's Best Secretary," in ironic quotation marks. Harvey gave me that as a Christmas gift 3 years ago, she said, noticing me looking at it. He thought it was funny. I thought it was tone deaf. We were both right. We settled on her couch with wine and Thai food from the place down the street. The windows were open, city noise drifting in sirens, car horns, someone's terrible saxophone practice. "I'm proud of you," Donna said after her second glass. "The Kessler case. You beat Mike cleanly, settled professionally, didn't make it about Harvey even though Hardman wanted you to. Did Harvey complain to you?" "Extensively. For 3 days. I ignored him professionally." She smiled. "Which made him complain more? About the case or about us?" "Both. Mostly us. He's convinced you're using me for inside information." "I'm not." "I know, but Harvey doesn't understand relationships that aren't transactional. If two people are together, one must be using the other. The idea that we might actually like each other independently of work benefits that confuses him." I thought about Harvey's worldview, how everything reduced to power and leverage. Donna wasn't wrong. Does it bother you? Him being disapproving? It annoys me, but Harvey's been disapproving of something for the entire 13 years I've known him. This is just the latest installment. She refilled her glass. "What about you? Hardman giving you grief about dating someone at Pearson Hardman?" "Hardman doesn't care as long as I keep winning cases against them. He'd probably encourage it if he thought I could use you for intelligence. But you don't. We agreed on rules." "We did. And they're working." She set down her glass, turned to face me properly. "But we need to talk about what happens when they get tested again. Kessler was one thing, small case, clear boundaries. What happens when you and Harvey face each other on something bigger?" "I'd been thinking about that since settlement closed. We stick to the rules. No case discussion. No information sharing. Complete separation of professional and personal. And when Harvey pressures me to find out what you're doing, you tell him no." "I do tell him no. He doesn't accept it." "Then keep telling him until he accepts it or fires you." Donna laughed, bitter edge to it. "Harvey can't fire me. I'm too essential. But he can make my life difficult. And he will, the next time you beat him." We sat with that truth for a while. The saxophone player down the street gave up, replaced by someone's stereo playing old Motown too loud. "This only works if we choose each other actively," Donna said finally. "Not passively. Not, we're together unless it gets hard. But actively choosing this every single day despite the complications." "I know. Do you? Because there's going to come a moment where Harvey demands I choose between loyalty to him and loyalty to you. And when that happens, I need to know you understand what I'm choosing." I set down my wine, looked at her properly. "When Harvey demands you choose, you tell him to go to hell. Because he's not entitled to control your personal life no matter how many years you've been his secretary. And if he fires me, then you find another job where you're treated like a person instead of an asset. And we figure it out together." Donna's expression softened. "That's the right answer. It's the only answer. We set the rules. We stick to them. Harvey doesn't get a vote." She kissed me then, tasting like wine and Thai basil. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "What?" I asked. "You keep surprising me. Every time I think you're going to calculate, you just choose. It's refreshing." "I'm learning." "From who?" "From you." We finished the wine, ordered dessert from the Thai place, watched terrible reality TV about people buying houses they couldn't afford. Donna provided running commentary, predicting which couples would last, none of them. I half-watched, mostly just aware of her presence, the particular way she laughed at the stupid parts. Around 11, she muted the TV. "Tomorrow. No plans, no strategy, no calculating, just spontaneous Brooklyn exploration. My system immediately started generating optimal routes, rating neighborhoods by interest level, calculating travel times. Okay, I said, ignoring the calculations completely. Really? No planning? Really? We'll figure it out as we go. Donna studied me. Who are you and what did you do with Scott Roden? I'm trying something new, not calculating everything. How's it feel? Terrifying, but good. Saturday morning, we took the subway to Brooklyn without a destination. Got off at a random stop Park Slope and just started walking. The neighborhood was tree-lined streets, brownstones with flower boxes, coffee shops with outdoor seating. Different from Manhattan's vertical steel. More human-scaled. We hit a bookstore first-used place with books stacked floor to ceiling and a cat that judged us from the counter. Donna disappeared into fiction, emerged 30 minutes later with 3 novels I'd never heard of. This one's about a woman who fakes her own death, she explained, showing me covers. This one's about sisters who hate each other. And this one is apparently a meditation on grief disguised as a cookbook. Sounds depressing. Good books usually are. I found the law section couldn't help myself but it was just dusty treatises from the 80s. Nothing useful. Moved to history instead, picked up something about the fall of the Roman Empire. Of course you choose the Roman Empire, Donna said, reading over my shoulder. What's wrong with the Roman Empire? Nothing. It's just very, systematic collapse of a complex organization through internal corruption and external pressure. That's not why I picked it. Isn't it? We bought the books, walked to a food truck selling Korean tacos, ate standing on the sidewalk, sauce dripping everywhere, completely undignified. My system tried to catalog the experience optimal food truck locations, probability of good recommendations and I deliberately shut it down. Just ate the taco. Just existed in the moment. You're doing it, Donna said. Doing what? Not calculating. Your face gets this particular expression when you're running probability models. Right now you just look present. Is that good? That's everything. We spent the afternoon wandering. Hit a vintage clothing store where Donna tried on ridiculous hats and made me model a leather jacket that made me look like I was trying too hard. Found a coffee shop that roasted their own beans and spent an hour reading our new books while overpaying for espresso. Stumbled across a street festival local artist selling jewelry and paintings, a guy playing guitar badly but enthusiastically. No plan, no strategy, no optimization, just wandering. Around 6, we ended up on the Brooklyn Promenade watching the sun set over Manhattan. The skyline glittered across the water, close enough to touch but feeling very far away. You smiled more today than the entire past 2 months, Donna said, leaning against the railing. Because I wasn't calculating anything. Good, keep not calculating, at least with me. I thought about that. The system had been quiet all day, dormant except for occasional attempts to catalog information I kept dismissing. Like it was learning when to step back. Can I tell you something? I asked. Always. This is the first time since arriving in New York that I've felt like myself. Not an associate. Not an opponent. Not someone building a career. Just, me. Donna looked at me, expression unreadable in the dimming light. That's what I wanted to hear. Why? Because it means you're not performing anymore. Not even with me. You're just being. We walked back to her apartment as the city shifted into evening mode. Streetlights flickering on, restaurants filling up, the particular energy of Saturday night taking hold. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably work, probably important. I ignored it. System notification, new case assignment pending. I dismissed it without reading. Tomorrow would be soon enough for work. Tonight was just for this walking through Brooklyn with someone who saw through all my calculations and liked what she found underneath. Stay over, Donna said as we climbed her apartment stairs. Not a question, just a statement. Yeah, I will. We spent the evening doing nothing important. Made dinner together badly, but together. Watched a movie neither of us had seen before. Fell asleep on her couch wrapped around each other, city lights filtering through her windows. My system whispered probability assessments about relationship longevity, success rates for cross-firm relationships, optimal strategies for balancing professional and personal lives. I turned the volume down mentally. Let it run its calculations in the background where I didn't have to hear them. Because Donna was right. This only worked if I chose it actively. Not because the probabilities were favorable. Not because it was strategically advantageous. But because she was the one place where I didn't need to be calculating or careful or strategic. Just present. And that was worth more than any system calculation could measure. 52, Chapter 52, The New Case Assignment. Chapter 52, The New Case Assignment. Monday morning, Hardman's assistant found me at my desk reviewing Robert Chen's incorporation documents. Mr. Hardman wants to see you. Conference room A. The tone suggested immediately, not eventually. I closed the files, grabbed my notepad, headed down the hall. Hardman was there with 2 junior partners Williams and Chen and a massive case file spread across the table. Patent documents, technical specifications, litigation history. The kind of case that meant long hours and substantial fees. Tech Vista, Hardman said without preamble. Cloud storage company. Pearson Hardman's client Cloud9 Technologies is suing them for patent infringement. Claims TechVista stole their compression algorithm. $40 million at stake. He slid a folder across to me. I'm making you second chair. I opened the folder, started scanning. Patent filed in 2009, TechVista's product launched in 2010, Cloud9 claiming theft of trade secrets and willful infringement. Standard patent warfare. Second chair to whom? I asked. Hardman smiled. To yourself. This is your case. Win it, and we begin partnership discussions. I looked up from the folder. This was a test. High stakes, high visibility, direct opposition to Pearson Hardman. Partnership carrot dangling in front of me. And based on the litigation history, Harvey Specter was lead counsel for Cloud9. Of course he was. What's the client's position? I asked. Amanda Cross, TechVista's CEO, is certain they developed their compression algorithm independently. She's got engineers, documentation, the whole chain of development. But Pearson Hardman's playing the "everyone steals in Silicon Valley" card. Do we have prior art? That's what you're going to find out. Client call is in 10 minutes. I want your initial assessment by end of day. Williams and Shin stood, leaving with knowing looks. They'd been through this Hardman sink-or-swim approach to cases. Give an associate responsibility, watch them drown or swim, adjust treatment accordingly. The conference room door closed behind them. Hardman stayed. Harvey Specter is lead on the other side. This isn't about winning, Scott. It's about destroying him publicly. Patent cases are technical, complex. Make it so dense with details that he drowns. Make him look incompetent in front of his client. There it was. The real agenda. Not client service. Not justice. Just Hardman's vendetta against Harvey. I'll win for TechVista, I said carefully. But I win on the merits. If Harvey drowns in details, that's his problem. But I'm not sabotaging client interests for spectacle. Hardman's expression hardened slightly. I'm giving you a path to partnership. Don't waste it being noble. I'm taking the path by being competent. That's worth more than nobility. We stared at each other. Then Hardman nodded once, sharply. Conference system is ready. Clients calling in 2 minutes. He left. I sat alone in the conference room, thinking about what I just agreed to. First case at Hardman and Associates had been wrongful termination, small stakes, clear ethics. This was patent litigation, millions of dollars, competing technical claims, months of discovery. And Harvey Specter on the other side, probably already planning how to crush me. Win rate calculator, case assessment. TechVista v. Cloud9 Technologies, defense, initial success probability, unable to calculate, insufficient data key variables, prior art existence, independent development proof, Harvey Specter expertise recommendation, secure technical expert, document development timeline, prepare for extended motion practice. The video screen flickered to life. Woman in her 40s, sharp features, tech CEO, casual expensive hoodie, minimal jewelry, the look of someone who'd built something real and refused to apologize for it. Amanda Cross, TechVista. You must be Scott Roden. I am. I've reviewed the complaint. Tell me your side. She didn't waste time. Cloud9 claims we stole their compression algorithm. We didn't. We developed ours completely independently starting in 2008, filed our own provisional patent in 2009, launched product in 2010. Different approach, different code, different result. Then why are they suing? Because our algorithm is better and cheaper. We're taking their market share. So they're using litigation to slow us down while they catch up technically. I made notes. Classic patent warfare used the legal system as a weapon when you can't compete on product quality. Do you have documentation of your development process? Everything. Git commits showing code evolution, design documents, meeting notes, emails. My lead engineer kept meticulous records because he was paranoid about this exact situation. Good. I'll need all of it. Also need to interview your engineering team, understand the technical differences between your algorithm and theirs. Done. Anything else? Yeah. Pearson Hardman's lead counsel is Harvey Specter. He's very good. This is going to get expensive and ugly. Are you prepared for that? Amanda Cross's expression didn't change. Mr. Roden, I built this company from nothing. I've survived investor backstabbing, acquisition attempts, market crashes, and 3 separate harassment lawsuits from male competitors who couldn't handle losing to a woman. Harvey Specter doesn't scare me. I smiled. Good. He shouldn't. But he's going to try. Let him try. You get me out of this lawsuit, I'll make sure everyone in Silicon Valley knows Hardman and Associates fights harder than the big firms. We talked logistics for another 20 minutes. She'd have her engineering team available for interviews, send over all development documentation, connect me with their patent attorney who'd handled the original filing. Professional, efficient, no nonsense. After she disconnected, I sat in the empty conference room thinking about what I'd just taken on. Patent litigation was complex, technical, a different beast from wrongful termination. I'd need to learn the technology, understand the algorithms, probably hire my own technical expert. But if I won, partnership discussions began. Real advancement, not just associate grinding. My phone buzzed. Text from Lewis, heard you're facing Harvey on TechVista. He's already bragging he'll crush you. Be ready. I typed back, Harvey brags when he's nervous. How's Pearson Hardman? Busy. Harvey's treating this case like personal vendetta. Mike's assisting but Harvey's not delegating anything important. Thanks for the intel. Be careful. Harvey wants to prove the Kessler case was a fluke. He's not going to settle this one. I pocketed the phone and started pulling up patent law resources. Federal Circuit precedents, technical claim interpretation, doctrine of equivalence. My system began cataloging information, but patent law was too dense for quick analysis. This would take time. Hours later, buried in case law about prosecution history estoppel, my office door opened. Hardman walked in, looked at my screen. How's the research? Complicated. Patent law is its own universe. I'll need a technical expert and probably a specialist consultant. Bill it. Client can afford it. Hardman sat down across from my desk. What's your strategy? I turned my monitor so he could see my notes. 2-track defense. First, prove independent development. We show our algorithm was developed without any knowledge of theirs. Second, demonstrate lack of substantial similarity. Even if there's superficial resemblance, the underlying implementations are different enough to avoid infringement. And if neither works, then we argue patent invalidity based on prior art. But that's backup position. Primary defense is we didn't copy because we didn't need to. Our solution is better. Hardman nodded slowly. Harvey will attack the development timeline. Try to show your client had access to Cloud9's work. They didn't. Amanda Cross is meticulous about documentation. Harvey will manufacture doubt. That's what he does. I thought about Harvey's approach: aggressive, confident, willing to imply things he can't quite prove. It worked in front of juries who valued certainty over complexity. Then I'll make it too technical for implications to work. Force him to prove actual copying with evidence, not just insinuation. Good. Hardman stood. Partnership discussions begin when you win this. Not if. When. Make it happen. After he left, I kept working. Read patent applications, technical specifications, Cloud9's litigation history. They'd sued 3 other competitors in the past 5 years. 2 had settled, 1 had fought and lost. Harvey's record on patent cases was strong. But TechVista had one advantage: the others hadn't. Complete documentation of independent development. If I could prove that, Cloud9's case collapsed. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna: working late. New case. Patent litigation against Pearson Hardman. Harvey's case. Yeah. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Be careful. He's in a mood about this one. Keep saying something about crushing upstart firms. He can try. Scott. I'm serious. Harvey's making this personal. He wants to prove Kessler was luck. Then he's going to be disappointed. This isn't luck. This is preparation. Dots again. Then, I believe you. Just, remember it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to prove everything alone. I stared at that message for a long moment. She was right. I'd been operating like I had to win every case solo, prove myself constantly, never show weakness. Thanks. I'll remember that. Good. Now stop working and get sleep. You look terrible when you're exhausted. How do you know how I look? You can't see me. I know you. That's how. I smiled and shut down my computer. Outside my window, Manhattan glittered in evening light. Somewhere across town, Harvey was probably working on the same case, probably confident he'd destroy me, probably already planning his victory. Let him plan. I had documentation, a motivated client, and the particular advantage of knowing Harvey underestimated me. That combination had worked once. It would work again. I packed up, headed home. Tomorrow I'd start building the defense. Tonight, I'd just rest and think about Donna's message. Remember it's okay to ask for help. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't have to fight every battle alone. But this battle against Harvey, for partnership, to prove I belonged at this level, this one I needed to win myself. Everything else was just noise. 53, Chapter 53, The Patent War, Part 1. Chapter 53, The Patent War, Part 1. The conference room became my second home. Walls covered in timeline printouts, patent diagrams, source code excerpts. 3 whiteboards filled with technical analysis. The kind of organized chaos that meant I was 3 days deep into a case and hadn't surfaced for air. TechVista's engineering team appeared on the video screen at 9 a.m. sharp. 5 engineers, all looking exhausted. Amanda Cross had them working overtime to support the litigation. Walk me through your development process, I said. Start from initial concept. The lead engineer, David Chin, early 30s, Stanford PhD, pulled up a presentation. We started research on compression algorithms in January 2008. The goal was creating something faster and more efficient than existing solutions. We explored 7 different approaches before settling on our current methodology. Did you review any competitor patents during this research? We did patent searches to avoid infringement. Cloud9's patent didn't exist yet. They didn't file until November 2009, almost 2 years after we started. I made notes. Timeline was crucial. If TechVista started development before Cloud9 filed their patent, independent development became provable. Do you have documentation of that early research? Everything. Git commits, design documents, email threads. David's paranoid about this stuff. The engineer smiled slightly. Pays off now. We spent 3 hours going through documentation. Every design decision, every code commit, every meeting note. The picture was clear. TechVista had developed their algorithm methodically, documenting each step, completely unaware of Cloud9's parallel work. Win rate calculator, evidence assessment. Independent development proof, strong documentation quality, exceptional timeline clarity, 18-month head start over competitor patent success probability update, 64%, 12%. Key vulnerability, Harvey will attack credibility of documentation. After the engineers logged off, I called Dr. Patricia Wong. Patent expert, 20 years experience, testified in 40+ cases. Her rate was astronomical, but Amanda had approved it without hesitation. I've reviewed both algorithms, Dr. Wong said over video. She was 50s, Chinese-American, spoke with the precision of someone who'd explained complex things to non-technical people thousands of times. Superficially similar outcomes both achieve efficient compression, but the underlying methodologies are completely different. Explain it like I'm a judge with no technical background. Cloud9's algorithm uses a dictionary-based approach, pre-computing common patterns and referencing them. TechVista's uses predictive modeling, analyzing data in real time and adapting compression dynamically. Same destination, different routes. Can Harvey argue they're substantially similar? He can try, but the source code is different. The mathematical foundations are different. The only similarity is they both compress data efficiently, which is like saying two cars are the same because they both have wheels. I smiled at that. Judges loved simple analogies. What's your professional opinion on independent development? Based on the documentation, TechVista clearly developed their algorithm independently. The timeline is unambiguous. They started 18 months before Cloud9 filed. And their approach is sufficiently different that even if they had seen Cloud9's work, it wouldn't have helped them. Will you testify to that? Absolutely. This is a clear case of parallel development. Happens all the time in tech, two companies solving the same problem independently because the problem exists. We discussed testimony strategy, exhibits, how to present technical evidence to a non-technical judge. Dr. Wong was perfect, credible, articulate, unshakable under cross-examination. After we hung up, I started drafting the defense strategy memo. Core argument, independent development proved by comprehensive documentation. Supporting arguments, lack of substantial similarity, different technical approaches, temporal impossibility of copying. My door opened. Hardman walked in, looked at my whiteboard covered in technical diagrams. What am I looking at? Algorithm analysis. TechVista's compression methodology versus Cloud9's. They're fundamentally different despite similar outcomes. Hardman picked up my draft memo, skimmed it. His expression soured. This is defensive. Where's the counterattack? The counterattack is proving they're wrong. That we didn't copy because we didn't need to, or solution is better. I want you to go after Cloud9's patent validity. Argue prior art, obviousness, anything that makes their patent look fraudulent. That's backup position if independent development fails. But our primary defense is stronger. We didn't infringe because we created something different. Hardman set down the memo, looked at me directly. I didn't hire you to play defense, Scott. I hired you to hurt Pearson Hardman. You hired me to win. This wins. I stood, walked to the whiteboard. Harvey's going to attack our timeline, imply we're lying about development dates. He'll make it emotional, accuse TechVista of stealing, paint them as Silicon Valley pirates. But if I keep it technical, force him to prove actual copying with evidence instead of insinuation, he'll drown in details. Harvey doesn't drown. Harvey excels at emotional persuasion. He's brilliant at reading people, making juries believe his narrative. But technical patent litigation? That's not his battlefield. It's mine. Hardman studied me for a long moment. You're betting your partnership on this strategy. I'm betting it on winning. And this wins. He nodded slowly. Fine. Execute your strategy. But if Harvey starts winning the emotional argument, you pivot to attacking their patent. Understood. Understood. After he left, I turned back to my whiteboard. Hardman wanted spectacle. Harvey probably wanted the same big dramatic arguments, emotional appeals, courtroom theater. But this case wasn't about theater. It was about documentation, timelines, technical proof. The kind of methodical, detail-oriented work that made for boring litigation but clear victories. I spent the next 6 hours organizing evidence chronologically. January 2008, initial research begins. March 2008, first prototype code. August 2008, algorithm refinement. November 2009, Cloud9 files patent. TechVista already 18 months into development. June 2010, TechVista product launch. Every step documented. Every decision recorded. An unbroken chain of evidence proving they built this independently. Harvey would attack it. He'd question the dates, imply backdating, suggest fabricated documentation. But he'd need proof, not just insinuation. And I didn't think he had it. Argument crusher, activated, opponent analysis. Harvey Specter strategy prediction, primary approach, attack documentation credibility secondary, emphasize industry culture of theft tertiary, appeal to judges' intuition over technical evidence weakness, limited technical expertise, relies on emotional persuasion recommended counter, force technical specificity, prevent narrative control. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna. How's the big case? Complex. Technical. Everything Harvey hates. Good. Use that. I stared at that message, thinking about what she meant. Harvey hated complexity he couldn't simplify. Hated technical details he couldn't spin into compelling narrative. This case was designed to frustrate him. Thanks for the perspective. Always. How late are you working? Probably midnight. Patent law is dense. Take breaks. You're no good exhausted. Yes, Mom. I'm serious. Harvey works himself to death and looks like it. Don't become him. That hit harder than intended. I looked at my reflection in the darkened window. 3-day stubble, bloodshot eyes, suit jacket somewhere behind my chair. I was becoming the thing I'd mocked others for being. Point taken. I'll leave by 11. See you tomorrow night. Dinner? Yeah. Text me the place. I set the phone down and forced myself to step back from the whiteboard. The evidence was organized. The strategy was solid. Working myself into exhaustion wouldn't make it better. But leaving felt wrong. Like I was giving Harvey an advantage by not working as hard as him. That's his trap, I thought. He makes everything a competition about who can sacrifice more. Don't play that game. I packed up my materials, shut down my laptop, walked out at exactly 11 p.m. The office was mostly empty, a few associates grinding on other cases, cleaning crew making rounds. Outside, the summer air was thick and warm. Manhattan never quite cooled down in July. I walked toward the subway, thinking about tomorrow's strategy session with Amanda Cross. My phone buzzed again. Lewis, heard you're buried in patent work. Harvey's doing the same. Both of you working insane hours. Winner isn't who works longest. Winner is who works smartest. Harvey doesn't see it that way. Harvey's problem, not mine. I got on the subway, found a seat, closed my eyes. Let the technical details settle in my mind while the train rattled through tunnels. Tomorrow I'd refine the timeline presentation. Day after, start drafting the motion for summary judgment. Week from now, probably facing Harvey in Discovery Conference. But tonight, I'd just rest. The train stopped at my station. I climbed the stairs to street level, walked the 3 blocks to my building. Small apartment, barely furnished, but it was mine. Inside, I dropped my bag and collapsed on the couch without turning on lights. City glow through the windows provided enough illumination. The system hummed quietly in the background, organizing today's information, preparing for tomorrow's work. But I let it run without engaging. Didn't need probability calculations right now. Just needed sleep. Tomorrow the war continued. Tonight, I surrendered. 54, Chapter 54, The Harvey Discovery. Chapter 54, The Harvey Discovery. Harvey Specter, Pearson Hardman. Something was wrong with Donna. Harvey couldn't pinpoint exactly what, which annoyed him more than the wrongness itself. She was still efficient, his calendar ran perfectly, his coffee appeared before he asked, his calls got screened with surgical precision. But she left at 6 p.m. 3 days straight. Donna never left at 6. And she was on her phone, constantly. Smiling at messages during his rant about the TechVista case, typing responses while he tried to strategize with Mike. Are you listening? Harvey asked, mid-sentence about patent claim interpretation. Cloud9's patent has 3 independent claims and 7 dependent claims. You're arguing claim 1 covers TechVista's algorithm through doctrine of equivalence. I'm listening. She didn't look up from her phone, then put the phone away. In a minute. Now, Donna. She looked up at him then, expression unreadable. Is there an urgent work matter you need me to handle? No, but. Then in a minute. She finished typing, smiled at the response, then pocketed the phone. What were you saying about claim interpretation? Harvey stared at her. Donna had never in 12 years prioritized her phone over his conversation. Even when it wasn't urgent. Even when he was being unreasonable. Something was definitely wrong. Later that afternoon, Mike stopped by. Dropped a file on Harvey's desk, hesitated. What? Harvey asked without looking up from his brief. Nothing. Just, saw Donna at dinner last week. With some guy. Harvey's pen stopped moving. What guy? Don't know. Didn't recognize him. They looked pretty comfortable though. Laughing, holding hands across the table. Where? That Italian place in Midtown. Angelo's. Angelo's. The place lawyers went for discreet meetings. The kind of spot where you could have dinner with someone without running into colleagues. Harvey's mind started connecting dots. Donna leaving early. Smiling at texts. Dinner with an unknown man at a discreet location. How long had this been happening? Did you talk to her? Harvey asked. No, didn't want to intrude. But Harvey, she looked happy. Like, really happy. I've never seen her look like that at work. After Mike left, Harvey sat at his desk thinking. Donna dating someone shouldn't bother him. She was an adult, single, entitled to a personal life. He'd be a hypocrite to object after his own various relationships over the years. But it bothered him anyway. Because Donna was. Donna. Constant. Reliable. His. Not in a romantic sense, if they'd drawn that line years ago and never crossed it. But in every other sense that mattered. She understood him, anticipated him, managed him better than anyone else could. The idea of her attention being divided, of someone else getting the version of Donna that smiled and laughed and looked happy, that shouldn't matter. But it did. 3 days later, she left at 6 p.m. again. Harvey watched through his office window as she grabbed her coat, checked her phone, smiled at whatever she read. He followed her out. "Donna, my office." She paused, finger hovering over the elevator button. "Can it wait? I have plans." "No." Her jaw tightened slightly, that meant she was annoyed but controlling it. She followed him back, closed the door behind them. Harvey sat on the edge of his desk, arms crossed. "You're dating him, Scott Roden." It wasn't a question. The timeline fit. Scott left Pearson Hardman, Donna started leaving early, Mike saw her at dinner. The guy who'd beaten Mike, settled the Kessler case, and was now fighting the TechVista case. Donna's expression didn't change. "Yes." Just like that. No denial, no deflection. Just confirmation. "My secretary is dating the guy trying to destroy us. He's doing his job, like you. And I'm not your secretary, Harvey. I work for you. I don't belong to you." The correction hit harder than it should have. This is a conflict of interest. How? Have I leaked information, compromised firm interests, done anything except my job? It affects your judgment. No. She stepped closer, voice sharp. It affects yours. I've been dating Scott for 4 months. You didn't notice until Mike mentioned it because nothing about my work changed. But now that you know, suddenly it's a problem. 4 months. Harvey's voice rose. You've been dating him for 4 months and didn't tell me. I don't report my personal life to you. I never have. The only reason you care now is because it's Scott. Because he's opposing counsel on a major case. So, I don't discuss cases. I don't share information. We have rules specifically to prevent conflicts. But you're not worried about conflicts, Harvey. You're worried that I chose someone over your comfort. The accuracy of that stung. Harvey stood, moved to his window. Downtown Manhattan stretched out below, afternoon sun reflecting off steel and glass. "You need to stop seeing him." Silence behind him. When Donna spoke, her voice was cold. "Excuse me. While we're opposing counsel on TechVista. Afterwards, fine. But during active litigation, no." Harvey turned. Donna stood by his desk, arms crossed, expression harder than he'd ever seen it. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no. I'm not stopping my relationship because you're uncomfortable. If you can't trust me after 12 years, that's your problem, not mine. This isn't about trust. It's entirely about trust. You're saying I can't date someone and still do my job with integrity. That insults me, Harvey. And I'm not going to dignify it by defending myself." They stared at each other. Harvey's office suddenly felt smaller, compressed by tension that had been building for months without him noticing. "If this affects your work, then fire me. But it won't affect my work. It hasn't affected my work. The only thing that's changed is your perception." She moved toward the door. "I'm leaving now. My personal time is mine. If you have actual work matters that need handling, call me. Otherwise, deal with your feelings about this on your own time." She walked out. Harvey stood alone in his office, hands clenched, processing what had just happened. Donna had defied him, chosen Scott Roden over his explicit demand, refused to even consider changing her behavior. For the first time in 12 years, Donna had said no. And meant it. Mike Ross. Mike watched the entire confrontation through the glass walls. Couldn't hear the words, but body language told the story. Harvey demanding something, Donna refusing, Harvey pushing, Donna walking out. He'd never seen anything like it. Rachel appeared at his elbow. "What happened?" Harvey just lost his first argument with Donna. "About what?" "About her dating Scott Roden, apparently." Mike turned back to his work. "This is going to be interesting." Rachel pulled him into an empty conference room. "Harvey knows Donna's dating Scott." "Since when?" "Just now, I think. He found out, demanded she stop, she refused." "Good for her." Mike looked at Rachel. "You're taking her side." "I'm taking the side of a woman who's entitled to a personal life without her boss's approval. Harvey doesn't own Donna. Never did. But the conflict of interest. There's no conflict unless Donna makes it one. And you know she wouldn't. She has more professional integrity than most of the partners here." Rachel crossed her arms. "This is about Harvey's ego, not firm interests. And Donna just told him his ego isn't her problem." Mike thought about that. She was probably right. Harvey's reaction wasn't about protecting the firm. It was about Donna paying attention to someone else, choosing someone else, being happy with someone else. "Harvey's going to make this worse," Mike said. "Probably. But that's his choice." Rachel headed for the door. Donna drew a line. "About time someone did." Harvey Specter. Harvey sat at his desk for 20 minutes after Donna left, not working, just thinking. He'd handled that wrong. Knew it even as he was doing it, but couldn't stop himself. Because the idea of Donna with Scott Roden, the associate he'd dismissed, who'd beaten Mike, who was now fighting them on TechVista felt like betrayal. Irrational. Unfair. Probably sexist. Definitely controlling. But still felt true. His phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. "Heard you had words with Donna. Fix it." News traveled impossibly fast in this building. He ignored the text, pulled up the TechVista case file. Work was easier than feelings. Always had been. But he couldn't focus. Kept seeing Donna's expression when she said, "I don't belong to you." The particular way she'd looked at him, not angry, not hurt, just done. Like she'd made a decision and nothing he said would change it. That scared him more than he wanted to admit. Because Donna had always been constant. Always been there. And if she could choose someone else, prioritize someone else, be happy with someone else, what did that make him? His office door opened. Lewis walked in without knocking, looked at him. You're an idiot. Get out, Lewis. Donna's the best thing about working here. She makes this entire floor function. And you just tried to control her personal life because you're threatened by Scott Roden. I'm not threatened. You absolutely are. He beat Mike, he settled a case you should have won, and now he's got Donna. That threatens your entire worldview where you're the center of everything. Lewis sat down uninvited. Here's what you're going to do. Tomorrow, you're going to apologize. You're going to tell Donna her personal life is her business. And you're going to mean it. I don't take orders from you. Then take advice from someone who's watched you self-sabotage relationships for 12 years. Donna's not a possession. She's a person who deserves happiness. If that happiness is with Scott Roden, deal with it. Lewis left. Harvey sat alone again, thinking about everything that had been said. Donna deserved happiness. Obviously. He'd never argue otherwise. But why did her happiness have to involve Scott Roden? His phone buzzed again. Text from Donna. I'm not discussing this further. If you want me to quit, say so. Otherwise, we're done with this conversation. Harvey stared at that message. Donna had never threatened to quit. Even when he was at his worst, she'd stayed. Managed him, fixed him, kept him functional. But now she was drawing a line. And the line was clear: accept her relationship with Scott, or lose her. Harvey closed his eyes, processing that impossible choice. Then did what he always did when feelings got too complicated. He went back to work. 55, Chapter 55, The Relationship Test. Chapter 55, The Relationship Test. Donna showed up at my apartment without texting first. That alone told me something was wrong. She always texted, always gave me the option to say I was busy or working or needed space. But she just knocked, waited, walked in when I opened the door. Her face was composed, professional. The mask she wore when dealing with Harvey's worst moments. But her hands were shaking slightly when she set down her bag. Harvey knows, she said. About us. He asked me to stop seeing you. I closed the door, locked it, gave her space to decompose. What did you say? I told him no. I told him my personal life isn't his concern. She walked to my window, looked out at the lights. He didn't take it well. Define, not well. He tried to make it about firm interests. Conflict of interest, compromised judgment, the usual justifications for controlling behavior. She turned back to face me. When that didn't work, he implied I was being unprofessional. That dating you while we're opposing counsel showed poor judgment. I moved to the kitchen, started making tea, gave my hands something to do while I processed. How long have you been thinking about quitting? She blinked. How did you? You texted me earlier asking if I'd ever regretted leaving Pearson Hardman. That's not casual curiosity. That's someone weighing options. Donna came to the kitchen, leaned against the counter. I'm not quitting. Not yet. But for the first time in 12 years, I thought about it. Actually considered walking away from Harvey. The kettle boiled. I poured water over tea bags, let them steep. Do you regret it? Saying no to him? No, but it was harder than expected. She accepted the mug I handed her. Harvey and we've been a team for so long. He's difficult and demanding and often insufferable, but he's also been the constant in my professional life. Saying no to him felt like betrayal, even though I know it wasn't. I leaned against the opposite counter, giving her space. You didn't choose against him. You chose for yourself. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where Harvey's standing, they're the same thing. Harvey's standing is wrong. You're entitled to a personal life. You're entitled to date whoever you want. The fact that he can't separate you having your own life from betraying him, that's his problem, not yours. Donna sipped her tea, studying me over the rim. He's going to make this harder. The cases, the professional interactions, everything. Harvey holds grudges. I know. And you're okay with that. I thought about how to answer honestly. I'm not thrilled about it. But I'm also not willing to let Harvey Specter dictate my personal life. Or yours. We set rules. We've followed them. If he can't handle that, he needs better coping mechanisms. She smiled slightly at that. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. I set down my mug. The question is whether you can live with choosing use over Harvey's comfort. Because that's what you did today. I know what I did. And I'd do it again. She set down her own mug, moved closer. I spent 12 years managing Harvey's life, anticipating his needs, making his impossible personality work. Somewhere in that, I forgot I was supposed to have my own life too. I pulled her close, felt her tension against my chest. What changed? You did. Or maybe I did because of you. You don't need me to manage you or fix you or make you functional. You're just, yourself. Good and bad and complicated. She looked up at me. That's refreshing in a way I didn't know I needed. We stood there in my small kitchen, city noise filtering in through the windows. Somewhere across town, Harvey was probably stewing, convinced that Donna's defiance was somehow my doing, that I'd manipulated her or used her or turned her against him. He'd never understand that she'd chosen this herself. That being with someone who didn't need constant management was its own kind of freedom. We could end this, I said quietly. Make it easier on you at work. Tell Harvey you reconsidered. Donna pulled back, looked at me directly. Is that what you want? No, but I'm asking what you need. I need to know you're in this. Not the strategy, not the career angles, not the complicated cross-firm dynamics. Just us. I'm in this. Completely. Even if Harvey makes your professional life harder. Even if this complicates cases and creates tension and makes everything messier. Yes. Because you're worth the mess. She kissed me then, urgent and certain. Not the careful kiss of two people navigating complications, but the desperate kiss of two people who'd just chosen each other over everything else. When we broke apart, she was smiling properly for the first time since arriving. Harvey's going to hate this, she said. Let him hate it. We keep choosing each other. Every day. That's the strategy. System notification, relationship stability assessment. Survival probability under increased external pressure, 61%, 13%. Key variables, Harvey's opposition, workplace complications, commitment level recommendation, maintain established boundaries, prioritize direct communication. I dismissed the notification without reading it fully. Numbers couldn't measure this: the way Donna relaxed against me, the particular way she laughed when I made terrible jokes, the comfortable silence that meant we didn't need to perform for each other. We ended up on my couch, her head on my shoulder, terrible reality TV playing in the background. Normal couple things. The kind of evening that felt revolutionary because we were choosing it despite everything working against us. Tell me something, Donna said during a commercial. Do you ever regret leaving Pearson Hardman? Honestly. I thought about that. The question she'd asked earlier via text, now asking again in person where I couldn't hide behind carefully crafted responses. I regret how it happened. Being forced out instead of leaving on my terms. Having Jessica make the choice for me instead of making it myself. I paused. But the outcome? No. If I'd stayed, I'd still be fighting for Harvey's approval, trying to fit a mold that was never designed for me. I wouldn't have built my own practice. Wouldn't have proven I could succeed without their name. Wouldn't have met me. Not like this. Wouldn't have met you like this, I agreed. So no, I don't regret it. The path was hard, but the destination is better than where I would have ended up. She kissed my shoulder through my shirt. Good answer. You asked for honesty. I did, and I'm glad you're capable of it. Harvey never rewrites history to make himself the hero of every story. We fell asleep there on the couch, wrapped around each other. City lights our only illumination. At some point my phone buzzed with work emails, but I ignored them. Tomorrow would be soon enough for strategy and cases and professional warfare. Tonight was just for this, for choosing each other despite everyone and everything telling us it was complicated. Because it was complicated. Harvey would make it harder. The cases would create tension. Working at opposing firms meant constant navigation of ethical lines and professional boundaries. But Donna had chosen me over Harvey's comfort. Had drawn a line and refused to cross it, even after 12 years of managing his impossible demands. That meant something. Something worth fighting for. Around 3 a.m., I woke up with a crick in my neck and Donna's elbow in my ribs. Carefully extracted myself, carried her to my bedroom, tucked her in without waking her. Stood in my doorway watching her sleep, thinking about the choice we'd made. The system hummed quietly in the background, running probability calculations about relationship longevity under adverse conditions. I didn't need the calculations. Some things were worth the risk regardless of the odds. This was one of them. I climbed into bed beside her, closed my eyes, and fell back asleep planning our next weekend somewhere outside the city, away from Harvey and Hardman and all the complications we'd deal with on Monday. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight, we just won the important battle. The rest would figure itself out. 56, Chapter 56, The Hostile Takeover, Part 1. Chapter 56, The Hostile Takeover, Part 1. Hardman called me into his office at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, which meant something significant. He didn't waste time. Carlson Industries. Manufacturing company, 40 years in business, decent revenue, terrible stock price. Currently represented by Pearson Hardman. He slid a folder across his desk. My client wants to acquire them. Hostile takeover. I opened the folder. Financial statements, shareholder analysis, corporate governance documents. The kind of aggressive M&A work that made investment bankers rich and destroyed companies if done badly. Who's your client? Venture capital fund looking to strip assets, restructure, resell at profit. Standard private equity playbook. And the target stance. Carlson's board will resist. They'll fight with everything: poison pill provisions, staggered board elections, Delaware law defenses. But the company's vulnerable. Stock price is down 30% over 2 years. Shareholders are unhappy. Board is divided. I scanned the shareholder analysis. Institutional investors held 47%, scattered retail investors the rest. No controlling shareholder, which meant the acquirer could win through proxy fight or tender offer. Pearson Hardman's defending. Jessica Pearson and Harvey Specter personally. They've represented Carlson for 15 years. This is the big one, Scott. You'll be my right-hand strategy, legal maneuvering, shareholder communications, everything. I set down the folder, thinking about what he wasn't saying. This case existed for one reason, to hurt Jessica and Harvey by destroying their long-term client relationship. The takeover might have business merit, but Hardman's motivation was pure revenge. What's the timeline? 6 to 8 months. Tender offer launches in 2 weeks. Then proxy fight, litigation, regulatory approval, final vote. Long, expensive, high profile. Win rate calculator, initial assessment. Hostile takeover success probability, 34%, 19%. Key variables, board resistance, shareholder loyalty, regulatory hurdles, Jessica/Harvey defense primary challenge, combined opposition of 2 top attorneys opportunity, divided board, shareholder dissatisfaction, weak defensive provisions, 34%. Not great odds against Jessica Pearson and Harvey Specter defending together. But not impossible either. What's my authority? I asked. Full strategic control. I'll handle client relationship and financial coordination. You handle legal warfare. Whatever you need, associates, experts, litigation budget, you get it. I thought about that. Partnership-level responsibility on a case designed to destroy Pearson Hardman's major client relationship. Win this, and I'd have everything Hardman had promised. Lose it, and I'd be the associate who'd cost them millions. I need to think about this. Hardman's expression hardened. There's nothing to think about. This is the opportunity one promised you. I need to consider the ethics. This case exists to hurt Jessica and Harvey, not to serve your client's best interests. If that's the primary motivation, I'm not participating. The client wants the acquisition. My motivation doesn't change that. Your motivation affects how the case gets litigated. If we're choosing strategies to maximize pain over strategies to win efficiently, that's not ethical representation. We stared at each other across his desk. The office suddenly felt smaller, pressure building. You're refusing. Hardman's voice was dangerous. I'm evaluating. Give me 24 hours. You have until tonight. I took the folder and left. Back in my office, I spread the documents across my desk, started analyzing the actual business case. Carlson Industries was vulnerable, declining profits, outdated manufacturing, too much debt. A private equity restructure might actually save the company and protect jobs better than current management. Or it might strip assets and destroy everything. The morality wasn't clear. But the strategic challenge was real. Take on Jessica Pearson and Harvey Specter simultaneously in their domain, defending a client they'd had for 15 years. System notification, ethical dilemma detected. Option A, decline case, principle over advancement. Option B, accept case, advancement over comfort. Analysis, client has legitimate business interest. Hardman's motivation secondary. Recommendation, accept with conditions, client interests prioritized over vendetta. The system's logic was cold but accurate. The client had a legitimate goal. The takeover had business merit. Hardman's personal vendetta was separate from whether the case itself was ethical. I could serve the client's interests while refusing to be Hardman's weapon. I pulled up my phone, called Amanda Cross from TechVista. She answered on the second ring. Scott, how's the patent case? Progressing, but I'm calling about something else. Professional advice. If your lawyer was taking a case primarily to hurt someone else, but the case itself had merit, would you want to know? Pause. Is this hypothetical? No, then yes. I'd want to know. Because if my lawyer's motivations are mixed, that affects how they represent me. Thanks. That's what I thought. After I hung up, I started drafting conditions. Accept the case, but establish rules. Client interests come first. Strategy is designed to win, not to punish. Decisions are made on legal merit, not revenge value. Hardman wouldn't like it, but he'd accept it because he needed me to win this. Around 6 p.m., I walked back to his office. He was on a call, gestured me in, finished quickly. Your answer. I'll take the case. With conditions. I don't negotiate with associates. You're not. You're negotiating with your lead counsel on a $40 million takeover. Here's what I need: full strategic autonomy, client interests prioritized over firm politics, and my partnership decision can't be contingent on humiliating Harvey and Jessica. It has to be contingent on winning. Hardman studied me for a long moment. You're drawing lines. I'm establishing professional boundaries. Take it or assign someone else. He smiled slowly. You're learning. Fine. Your conditions are accepted. Now start building strategy. Tender offer launches in 2 weeks. I left his office feeling the weight of what I'd just agreed to. Fighting TechVista was one thing: technical case, limited scope, clear ethical lines. This was corporate warfare. Hostile takeover. Months of aggressive litigation against 2 attorneys who'd gladly destroy me to protect their client. Back at my desk, I started mapping strategy. Tender offer structure, proxy fight logistics, regulatory approval timeline. The system ran calculations in the background, but this was too complex for simple probability models. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna: big case coming. Going to be intense for a while. How did you know? Harvey's already assembling war room for Carlson Industries defense. Are you on the other side? Yeah. 3 dots appeared, then, be careful out there. This isn't like Kessler. Harvey and Jessica together are formidable. I know, but I'm better prepared this time. Scott, this is going to get ugly. Hostile takeovers always do. Promise me you won't let Hardman turn you into his weapon. I stared at that message, thinking about the conditions I'd just negotiated. I won't. Client interests first. Always. Good. Now go home. You need rest before the war starts. I shut down my computer and packed up. Tomorrow I'd start building the takeover strategy, coordinating with Hardman's financial team, preparing for months of litigation. But tonight, I'd just process what I'd agreed to. Fighting Harvey and Jessica simultaneously. On a case designed to destroy their client relationship. While dating Harvey's secretary and working for his former partner who wanted revenge. The complications were staggering. The ethical lines were blurry. The professional risk was enormous. But the opportunity was real. Win this, and I'd have proven I belonged at the highest level. Lose it, and I'd be just another ambitious associate who reached beyond his capabilities. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. I walked out into summer evening heat, thinking about Donna's warning. This is going to get ugly. She was right. Hostile takeovers were warfare by other means. And Harvey didn't lose gracefully. Neither did Jessica. Together, defending a 15-year client relationship, they'd fight with everything. But I'd fought them before and won. Different circumstances, different stakes, but the principle held: preparation beats confidence, strategy beats instinct. I just had to execute. My phone buzzed again. Text from Lewis: heard about Carlson. Harvey's already planning to crush you. Be ready. Always am. I got on the subway, found a seat, closed my eyes. Let the strategy begin: forming tender offer structure, shareholder outreach, proxy materials, defensive countermeasures. The war was coming. And this time, it wouldn't be a small case about wrongful termination or a technical patent dispute. This time, it would be total war. I was ready. 57, Chapter 57, The Hostile Takeover, Part 2. Chapter 57, The Hostile Takeover, Part 2. Harvey Specter, Pearson Hardman. The conference room table was covered in hostile takeover documents. SEC filings, tender offer materials, shareholder communications, stock purchase disclosures. 2 weeks of aggressive maneuvering by Hardman's fund manager client, all perfectly executed, all technically flawless. Harvey hated it. They're moving fast, Mike said, reviewing the latest filing. Stock acquisition structured to stay just under disclosure triggers until they controlled 18%. Then sudden announcement with full tender offer. Classic ambush. Jessica sat at the head of the table, reading through the tender offer materials with the focus she reserved for serious threats. She'd been Carlson's attorney for 15 years, guided them through 2 recessions and a near bankruptcy. This wasn't just a case, it was a relationship. The timing is deliberate, Jessica said without looking up. They waited until our quarterly earnings came out showing decline. Used that as leverage in shareholder communications. Every regulatory requirement met perfectly. No procedural vulnerabilities. It's Hardman's revenge play, Harvey said. He wants to destroy your oldest client relationship. It's more than that. Jessica slid a document across to him. Look at the structure. The regulatory filings are flawless. The shareholder communications are personalized, targeted to specific concerns. The timeline is optimized to maximize pressure while minimizing our response window. She paused. This is Scott Roden's work. Harvey's jaw tightened. He'd been trying not to think about Scott, trying to focus on the case rather than the person leading the attack. But Jessica was right: the precision, the strategic timing, the technical perfection. That was Scott. So what? Harvey said. Good planning doesn't win takeover battles. Client relationships do. We've represented Carlson for 15 years. Hardman's fund manager has been their client for 15 minutes. And if the fund manager is offering shareholders a 30% premium over current stock price. Jessica's voice was sharp. Loyalty only goes so far when money's on the table. Mike cleared his throat. What's our strategy? Block the tender offer or negotiate with shareholders? Harvey and Jessica spoke simultaneously. Block it, Harvey started. Negotiate, Jessica began. They stopped, looked at each other. The conference room suddenly felt smaller. We need to file immediate motions, Harvey continued. Challenge the tender offer structure, invoke poison pill provisions, get injunctive relief. Make this so expensive and complicated they give up. That's exactly what they expect, Jessica countered. Aggressive litigation that burns client resources while shareholders watch us fight instead of addressing their concerns. We need to talk to the institutional investors directly, show them that current management has a plan. Which gives Hardman time to consolidate support. Which shows shareholders we're responsive instead of defensive. We don't have time for politics, Jessica. This requires immediate legal action. This requires understanding that winning in court means nothing if we lose the shareholder vote. The conference room went silent. Mike looked between them, uncertain. Harvey had seen Jessica passionate before, but rarely this intense. Carlson Industries wasn't just a client, it represented something about her legacy at the firm. We do both, Harvey said finally. Aggressive court filings to slow them down, direct shareholder engagement to prevent support. But I lead the litigation, you lead the negotiations. Jessica studied him for a long moment. Agreed. Mike, start drafting motion to enjoin the tender offer. Lewis will handle shareholder analysis, find out who's likely to tender and why. Mike left to coordinate. Harvey stayed, watching Jessica review more documents. This bothers you more than usual, he said. Carlson was my first major client when I made partner. 23 years ago. The company was half its current size. I helped them grow, navigate acquisitions, survive market crashes. She didn't look up. And now Daniel Hardman wants to destroy them to hurt me. Then we don't let him. It's not that simple. If the takeover genuinely benefits shareholders, fighting it just to preserve my relationship would be malpractice. She finally met his eyes. We need to win on merits, not emotions. Harvey understood what she wasn't saying. If they lost this, it would validate every criticism of her leadership. That sentiment over strategy weakened the firm. That personal relationships compromised judgment. We won't lose, Harvey said. You sound certain. I am certain. Because we're better than Hardman. And we're better than Scott Roden. Jessica's expression was unreadable. Are we? Scott beat Mike on Kessler. His TechVista defense has been technically flawless. And now this, she gestured at the takeover documents. This is sophisticated corporate warfare. Maybe we underestimated him. He's a good associate. That's all. Good associates don't lead hostile takeovers, Harvey. Good associates don't make you nervous. She stood, gathering files. Start drafting your motions. I'll begin shareholder outreach. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning. Mike Ross, Pearson Hardman. Mike found Lewis in his office, surrounded by shareholder analysis spreadsheets. Jessica wants you to identify vulnerable shareholders, Mike said. Already on it. Lewis pointed at his screen. Carlson has 3 major institutional investors, 47% of shares total. Another 38% is scattered retail. The remaining 15% is management and board. So we need to keep the institutional investors on our side. Correct. Problem is, all 3 institutions have complained about Carlson's performance over the past 2 years. Declining margins, lost market share, missed earnings. They're exactly the shareholders who'd support a premium buyout. Mike sat down across from Lewis. Can Jessica convince them to reject the offer? If she can show them a credible turnaround plan, maybe. But that requires Carlson's management to actually have a turnaround plan. Lewis leaned back. Here's what nobody's saying: the takeover might be better for Carlson. Fresh capital, strategic restructuring, new management. Sometimes the hostile acquirer is right. So we're defending a losing position. We're defending our clients' wishes. Management wants to stay independent. Our job is helping them do that. Lewis paused. But between us, Hardman's not wrong about Carlson being vulnerable. Mike thought about that. Who's leading strategy on their side? Is it Hardman or Scott? Scott. Hardman's doing the client relationship and providing resources, but the actual strategy, the filings, the timing, the shareholder communications, that's Scott Roden. How do you know? Because I worked with him for 9 months. I know how he thinks. Methodical, precise, always 3 steps ahead. Lewis's expression was complex. Hardman's using him like a weapon. Scott's either too smart to realize it, or too ambitious to care. Is he really that dangerous? Lewis looked at Mike directly. He beat you in the Kessler case with preparation and strategy. He's making Harvey nervous enough that Harvey's personally leading the defense. Yes, Mike. He's that dangerous. Mike left Lewis's office thinking about that assessment. Scott Roden, quiet associate who'd worked at Pearson Hardman for 9 months, been forced out, and was now leading a hostile takeover against them, and dating Donna, which made everything more complicated. Mike's phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. How bad is the Carlson case? Bad. Harvey and Jessica can't agree on strategy. The attack is sophisticated, and Scott Roden is behind it. The guy dating Donna. Yeah, this is going to be messy. Mike pocketed his phone and headed back to the war room. Harvey was already there, dictating motion language to a paralegal, pacing while he talked. Enjoying the tender offer based on inadequate disclosure of acquirer's intentions regarding employment, operations, and long-term business strategy. Jessica entered, phone to her ear. Understand your concerns about performance, but hostile takeovers typically result in job losses and strategic disruption. They were fighting the same battle from completely different angles. Harvey through courts, Jessica through personal relationships. Both necessary, both insufficient alone. Mike pulled up the tender offer materials on his laptop, started analyzing vulnerabilities. The structure was clean, no obvious procedural errors, no disclosure violations, no regulatory gaps. Whoever drafted this had anticipated every standard defense and preemptively addressed it. Scott. That was Scott's work. Thorough, precise, defensively sound. Mike, Harvey called. I need precedent for enjoining tender offers based on coercive timing. Start with unocal and work forward. Mike dove into research, pulling cases, analyzing holdings, building the legal framework. Standard takeover defense work, find procedural objections, stack them together, hope the judge rules favorably on enough to slow momentum. But underneath, he wondered if they were fighting the right battle. The legal maneuvers felt secondary to the real question: could Jessica convince shareholders to reject a premium offer? Around midnight, Harvey and Jessica finally aligned on strategy. Hybrid approach, Jessica said, writing on the whiteboard. Harvey files motions to block procedural aspects: timing, disclosure, regulatory compliance. I work shareholders directly: meetings, presentations, alternative value propositions. We attack from both angles simultaneously. Timeline? Harvey asked. 2 weeks until shareholder vote. We need motions filed by Friday, injunction hearing next week, shareholder meetings concurrent. That's aggressive. So is a hostile takeover. Jessica capped the marker. Mike, you're with Harvey on motion practice. Lewis handles shareholder intelligence. I'll coordinate with Carlson's management on their defense strategy. Mike and Harvey worked until 3 a.m. drafting motions. Preliminary injunction, temporary restraining order, discovery demands, every procedural weapon they could deploy. As Mike packed up to leave, Harvey stood at the window, looking out at the sleeping city. He's good, Harvey said quietly. Who? Scott. This whole attack, it's technically perfect. No procedural vulnerabilities. Optimal timing. Personalized shareholder communications. He's thinking 3 moves ahead. So we think 4 moves ahead. Harvey smiled slightly. That's the plan. He turned from the window. Go home. Get some sleep. This is going to be a war. Mike left, exhausted. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Outside, Manhattan was quiet, that strange 3 a.m. peace before the city woke up for another day of chaos. His phone buzzed. Text from Rachel, still working, just leaving. Harvey's in war mode. Be careful. Hostile takeovers bring out the worst in everyone. Mike walked toward the subway, thinking about Scott Roden. They'd had drinks together a few months ago. Had a genuine conversation. Scott had given him advice, treated him with respect despite beating him in court. And now Scott was leading an attack designed to destroy one of Pearson Hardman's oldest client relationships. Was it personal, professional, just business? Mike didn't know, but he was about to find out. The war had begun. 58, Chapter 58, The Hostile Takeover, Part 3. Chapter 58, The Hostile Takeover, Part 3. Scott Roden, Hardman and Associates. The motion practice turned into trench warfare. Harvey filed to enjoin the tender offer. I countered with precedents showing tender offers couldn't be blocked without proving fraud. Jessica filed for temporary restraining order. I demonstrated procedural compliance, rendering injunctive relief inappropriate. Mike filed discovery demands. I objected to fishing expeditions while providing exactly what the law required. Each filing, each response, each reply brief was a chess move. The system tracked it all. Win rate calculator, dynamic assessment. Success probability, 48%, 14%, fluctuating recent developments, +6%, motion to compel granted, -4%, TRO hearing scheduled, key variables, shareholder sentiment, judicial decisions, media coverage, current status, competitive equilibrium, 48%. Nearly even odds. Harvey and Jessica fighting together were formidable. Every motion they filed was technically sound, strategically smart, designed to slow momentum while Jessica worked shareholders behind the scenes. But I'd anticipated most of their moves. Prepared counterarguments before they filed. Structured the original tender offer to withstand standard defenses. Motion to compel shareholder meeting, I told Hardman, showing him my draft. Forces Carlson to hold special meeting within 30 days. Delaware law requires it once we control 10% and make formal demand. Hardman read it, smiled. This forces them to burn time on procedure instead of defending. This forces the fight into the arena where we're strongest: direct shareholder democracy. Harvey can file motions forever, but he can't stop shareholders from voting if they want to. I filed the motion Friday afternoon. Harvey's response arrived Monday morning, 33 pages, arguing the shareholder meeting demand was premature, coercive, designed to manipulate rather than inform. I read it twice, recognizing Harvey's aggressive style, but also recognizing gaps in the argument. Was relying on emotional appeals about shareholder protection rather than specific case law. Argument crusher, activated. Harvey Specter motion analysis, primary weaknesses, 3 identified. 1. Relies on shareholder coercion theory without proving actual coercion. 2. Cites cases distinguishable on facts. 3. Appeals to judicial discretion without explaining limiting principles. Recommended counter, for specific fact findings, emphasize statutory rights. I drafted my reply brief that night, systematically dismantling Harvey's objections. No coercion when shareholders receive full information and make informed choice. Cases he cited involved fraud or inadequate disclosure, neither present here. Judicial discretion doesn't override statutory shareholder meeting rights. 32 pages. Precise. Technical. The kind of brief that frustrated Harvey because it didn't give him emotional angles to attack. While the motion war raged, I executed the second phase. Called my contact at the Wall Street Journal, established relationship from previous client work, maintained carefully for exactly this purpose. Anonymous tip, I said. Carlson Industries Q2 earnings call tomorrow. Buried in footnote 17 of their financials, they acknowledging market share losses and declining margins. Management doesn't want to highlight it, but it's public information. The reporter did her job. Next morning, Wall Street Journal ran analysis, Carlson Industries' hidden weakness, why shareholders should consider premium offers. Jessica would suspect information warfare, but she couldn't prove it. The information was public, the reporter did independent analysis, I maintained complete deniability. Blackmail archive, strategic note. Media manipulation, successful shareholder sentiment shift, plus 8% support for takeover attribution, 0, maintained deniability, risk level, minimal. My phone rang. Hardman, did you see the journal article? I saw it. Helpful timing. Very helpful. Jessica's going to be furious. He paused. Good work. Keep the pressure up. Third phase was direct shareholder outreach. I drafted personalized analyses for Carlson's 3 major institutional investors' pension funds, mutual funds, each with different priorities. For the pension fund, emphasize financial returns and fiduciary duty to beneficiaries. For the growth fund, emphasize value creation through restructuring. For the conservative fund, emphasize premium over current price eliminates downside risk. Each analysis was factually accurate, legally defensible, strategically targeted. Jessica was doing the same thing from the other side, emphasizing management stability, long-term relationships, risks of hostile acquirer. But she was selling status quo. I was selling improvement. Status quo was a harder sale when the stock was down 30%. 2 weeks in, I met with the pension fund's investment committee via video conference. 5 people, all analyzing whether to tender their shares or support management. Your analysis shows 30% premium, the lead analyst said. But hostile takeovers often fail. If we tender and it fails, we're left holding stock that's probably declined further. That's why the tender offer includes a minimum condition, I explained. If we don't get majority support, the offer terminates and you keep your shares at current value. No downside risk from tendering. And if it succeeds, immediate 30% gain, plus potential for additional value creation through restructuring. They asked technical questions for an hour. I answered each one precisely, backed by data, never overpromising. The system tracked their reactions, body language, tone, follow-up questions and adjusted my responses in real time. After they disconnected, I sat in the empty conference room processing. They'd tender. Not certain, but probable. One of 3 major shareholders swinging to our side shifted the entire battle. Win rate calculator, updated. Success probability, 52%, 12%. Key development, pension fund likely support, plus 4%. Remaining variables, judicial rulings, other shareholder decisions, timeline, critical vote in 10 days. 52%. Slightly favorable odds. Still close enough that anything could change the outcome. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna, how's the takeover battle? I hesitated before responding. We'd agreed on Rolls-no case discussion. But she knew I was fighting Harvey and Jessica. Probably knew more about their strategy than I did. Intense. 3 weeks in, everyone's exhausted. Harvey's been impossible. Working until midnight, snapping at everyone, treating this like personal vendetta. Is he winning? He's fighting. Don't know if that's the same thing. I pocketed the phone, thinking about what she'd said. Harvey treating this personally meant he was emotional rather than strategic. That was an advantage. Emotional opponents made mistakes. But it also meant he'd fight harder, longer, more desperately. Wouldn't accept defeat gracefully. Would keep fighting even after the battle was lost. That night, I worked until 2 a.m. preparing for the injunction hearing. Harvey would argue the tender offer was coercive, improperly timed, designed to manipulate rather than inform shareholders. I needed to prove every element was legally compliant, procedurally sound, substantively fair. The system helped organize arguments, anticipate counterpoints, structure the presentation. But the creative strategy, that was mine. The system just made execution more efficient. Around midnight, Hardman stopped by my office. Looked at my whiteboard covered in hearing preparation notes. You're doing exactly what I hired you for, he said. Harvey Specter is losing. Jessica's losing. This is perfect. I didn't correct him. Didn't explain that I wasn't trying to make Harvey lose, I was trying to make my client win. The distinction mattered to me. Probably didn't matter to Hardman. Hearings in 3 days, I said. We'll know then if the judge grants preliminary injunction or lets the tender offer proceed. And if he grants it, then we appeal and keep fighting. Takeover battles are marathons, not sprints. After Hardman left, I shut down my computer and stared out at the city. Somewhere across town, Harvey was probably still working. Mike was probably researching. Jessica was probably calling more shareholders. We were all exhausted. All fighting our own version of the war. All convinced we were right. Only the shareholders' vote would settle it. I packed up and headed home. The subway was empty, late-night stragglers heading to wherever they needed to be. I found a seat, closed my eyes, let the technical details settle in my mind. Tomorrow, finalize hearing brief. Day after, witness preparation. Day 3, injunction hearing against Harvey and Jessica simultaneously. The system hummed quietly in the background, organizing information, updating probability models. But I tuned it out. Didn't need calculations right now. Just needed rest. The train stopped at my station. I walked the 3 blocks to my building, climbed the stairs, unlocked my apartment. Small space, mostly empty, but mine. I collapsed on the couch without turning on lights. Tomorrow would bring more warfare. More motions, more strategy, more chess moves in a game where both sides were playing for keeps. But tonight, I'd just accept where we were. 52% odds of winning. 3 weeks of brutal litigation. 10 days until the final vote. Everything I'd worked for, partnership, reputation, proving I belonged at this level, came down to this case. No pressure. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. The war continued. 59, Chapter 59, The Hostile Takeover, Part 4. Chapter 59, The Hostile Takeover, Part 4. For weeks into the battle, I sat in my office at 2 a.m. staring at updated probability calculations. The system had been running continuous analysis as new data came in: shareholder sentiment, judicial rulings, media coverage, financial disclosures, win rate calculator, comprehensive assessment, takeover success probability, 48%, 11%. Cost analysis, legal fees $2.8 million and climbing, client satisfaction risk, 34%, prolonged battle creating uncertainty, optimal strategy, settlement negotiation within 72 hours, recommendation, achieve client objectives through compromise rather than total victory, 48%. Essentially a coin flip after spending nearly $3 million in legal fees. Even if we won the shareholder vote, Pearson Hardman would appeal every ruling, drag out regulatory approval, tie up the acquisition in litigation for another year. Pyrrhic victory. Win the battle, lose the objective. I pulled up my client file and started drafting a settlement memo. Hardman wouldn't like it, wanted Harvey's head on a spike, wanted Jessica humiliated, wanted Pearson Hardman destroyed. But my client didn't care about Hardman's vendetta. They cared about return on investment. Settlement could give them that. Morning meeting with Hardman went exactly as expected. Settlement. He said the word like I'd suggested: surrender. We're winning. We're at 48% probability with mounting costs and uncertain timeline. Settlement gets our client equity stake, board representation, and governance, changes everything they actually want. It doesn't get me what I want. Your wants aren't my client's objectives. I kept my voice level. We can keep fighting for another 2 months, burn another $1 million in fees, and maybe win 52% of the time. Or we can negotiate terms that satisfy client interests and close this now. Hardman leaned back in his chair, studying me. You're afraid of Harvey. I'm pragmatic about costs versus benefits. There's a difference. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, explore settlement terms. But I want substantial concessions. No face-saving compromises that let Jessica claim victory. I'll get the best deal possible. That's all I can promise. The settlement conference was set for neutral ground, a conference room at the courthouse, no clients present, just lawyers negotiating framework. Harvey arrived first, looking exactly like I felt: exhausted, running on coffee and spite. Jessica came separately, more composed but with that particular tension that meant she'd been working 18-hour days. I set my materials on the table, took the seat facing them both. David versus 2 Goliaths. Harvey spoke first. You've made your point. You're good at this. Can we move past the posturing and actually negotiate? I'm not posturing. I'm representing my client's interests, same as you. Then represent them by settling. This destroys both our clients if it continues. Harvey slid a document across. Here's what we're offering. Your client gets 15% stake at 10% premium, no board representation, no governance changes. They profit, Carlson maintains independence, everyone walks away. I read it without reacting. Lowball offer designed to establish negotiating range. Expected. Counterproposal, I said, sliding my own document across. 35% stake at 20% premium, 2 board seats, veto rights on major corporate decisions. Jessica smiled slightly. That's essentially a hostile takeover with paperwork. That's what my client wanted initially. I'm being generous by negotiating at all. We spent the next 3 hours grinding through terms. Every percentage point of equity stake was a battle. Every governance provision was war. Harvey and Jessica tag-teamed. Harvey aggressive on financial terms, Jessica precise on governance details. But they were as exhausted as I was. And they wanted this over as badly as I did. Around hour 4, we found the middle ground. 30% equity stake, I said. 15% premium. 2 board seats, limited veto on asset sales over $50 million. Management stays intact but reports quarterly to new board structure. Harvey and Jessica conferred quietly. I couldn't hear the words but could read the body language. Harvey wanted to keep fighting, Jessica wanted closure. Jessica won. Agreed, she said. With one addition: your client signs standstill agreement preventing further acquisitions for 2 years. 18 months, I countered. Done. We shook hands. The battle was over. 4 weeks of warfare settled in 4 hours of pragmatic negotiation. Harvey stayed behind after Jessica left to call Carlson's CEO. Sat across from me, loosening his tie. You could have pushed harder, he said. Gotten more concessions. Why didn't you? Because my client's interests were met. They wanted equity stake, governance influence, and return on investment. They got all 3. Hardman wanted more. Hardman wanted revenge. That's not my job. Harvey studied me for a long moment. You know what's strange? When I dismissed your work at Pearson Hardman, I thought you were just another ambitious associate who'd peaked early. Smart but not exceptional. And now I think you might be better than I gave you credit for. He stood, grabbed his briefcase. You serve your clients, not your ego. That's rare. Is that respect I'm hearing? Don't push it. But he smiled slightly. See you on the next case, Roden. After he left, I sat alone in the conference room, processing. I'd just negotiated settlement with Harvey Specter and Jessica Pearson simultaneously. Had achieved client objectives while frustrating Hardman's revenge fantasy. Had proven I belonged at this level. The victory should have felt bigger. Instead, I just felt tired. My phone buzzed. Text from Hardman, settlement terms acceptable, client objectives achieved, financial terms favorable, governance changes secured, and Jessica still has her client, but with our conditions. 3 dots. Then, come to my office when you're back. I packed up my materials, headed back to Hardman and Associates. The war was over. Now came the harder part, explaining to Hardman why I'd settled instead of destroying his enemies. Harvey Specter, Pearson Hardman. Harvey walked back to Pearson Hardman, thinking about the settlement. Thinking about Scott Roden. The kid had been good. No better than good. Excellent. He'd structured the takeover perfectly, forced them into exhausting litigation, negotiated like someone with twice his experience, and then settled when he could have kept fighting. That was the interesting part. Scott had leveraged momentum with shareholders, favorable media coverage, judicial rulings trending his way. He could have pushed for total victory, forced Carlson into complete acquisition. But he'd settled for terms that served his client without humiliating the target. Professional. Mature. Strategic. Everything Harvey had assumed Scott wasn't when he dismissed him 9 months ago. His phone rang. Jessica. Settlements finalized. Carlson's board approved the terms. We're done. Good. Harvey, about Scott Roden. I know. He's wasted at Hardman's firm. Once he gets tired of being Daniel's weapon. I know, Jessica. I'm thinking about it. He hung up and kept walking. Scott Roden was good enough to be a problem. Good enough to be valuable. Good enough that maybe just maybe forcing him out had been a mistake. But that was a thought for another day. Chapter 60 The Aftermath Assessment. Chapter 60 The Aftermath Assessment. The firm reception was modest but genuine. Hardman and Associates gathered in the conference room, wine and beer from the corner deli, pizza from that place on 6th Avenue. 20 lawyers celebrating a settlement that had earned the firm nearly $400,000 in fees and established the firm as legitimate opposition to major players. Associates congratulated me, handshakes, back slaps, the particular camaraderie of people who'd worked brutal hours together. Jennifer Park approached with wine in hand, smile not quite reaching her eyes. Impressive work, Scott. For weeks against Harvey and Jessica, came out with favorable settlement. She sipped her wine. You've become Hardman's favorite. The words were complimentary. The tone suggested otherwise. Team effort, I said. Was it? Because from where I'm sitting, you handled everything: strategy, negotiations, client relationship. Hardman barely mentioned anyone else in his speech. I didn't have a good response to that. She was right. The Carlson case had been mine from start to finish. That made me valuable. It also made me a target for associates who wanted that same recognition. You did good work on the merchant case, I offered. Heard you got favorable verdict. 3-week trial, unanimous jury. But nobody's throwing me a reception. She smiled without warmth. Congratulations on your success. Try not to get too comfortable as the golden boy. Favorites fall out of favor quickly around here. She walked away before I could respond. I found a corner and nursed a beer, watching the celebration. Associates networking, partners schmoozing, everyone performing the social calculus of law firm politics. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna, heard you settled. Congratulations. Harvey actually used the word professional about you. That's almost a compliment. From Harvey? That is a compliment. How's he handling it? Exhausted but relieved it's over. Jessica's pleased with the outcome. You did well. I pocketed the phone and looked around the room. This was victory firm success, client satisfaction, professional recognition. So why did it feel hollow? Scott. Hardman appeared at my elbow, voice low. My office. 5 minutes. He walked away before I could respond. I finished my beer, set down the cup, headed to his office. The celebration continued without me. Hardman was at his desk, reading the settlement agreement for probably the 10th time. He didn't look up when I entered. We could have destroyed them completely, he said finally. Forced total acquisition. Made Jessica watch while her oldest client got dismantled. Made Harvey defend a losing position in court. We got our client 30% equity and board control, I said. That's everything they wanted. I wanted more. You wanted Harvey humiliated. That's different from client objectives. Hardman set down the agreement, looked at me directly. I hired you for a reason, Scott. Because you were angry at Jessica for firing you. Because you had something to prove. Because I thought you understood that sometimes winning isn't enough, you need to make them feel it. I understand that's what you want. But that's not what I do. I serve clients, not vendettas. Everything here is about vendettas. Against Jessica, against Harvey, against firms that dismissed us. If you can't accept that, you're in the wrong place. The office felt smaller. Hardman's expression was cold, calculating. This was the boss who dangled partnership in front of me as motivation to destroy his enemies. Now he was realizing I had boundaries he didn't appreciate. The client is satisfied, I said evenly. We earned substantial fees. We proved Hardman and Associates can compete at the highest level. That's success by any objective measure. Success is making them regret forcing me out. Success is proving they need me more than I need them. Success is he stopped, jaw tight. You settled because you're still seeking their approval. Jessica's and Harvey's. You want them to think you're reasonable, professional, worthy of their respect. I settled because it was the right strategic decision. There's no strategic decision that doesn't also serve psychological needs, Scott. You're lying to yourself if you think otherwise. We stared at each other. The celebration noise filtered through the door, laughter, conversations, the sound of people who didn't understand the tension in this room. Is this affecting my partnership discussions? I asked. Hardman leaned back. Your partnership discussions were contingent on winning. You won. We'll begin those discussions next month. He paused. But understand something, partnership here means embracing what we're building. A firm that doesn't apologize for wanting to hurt the people who dismissed us. If you can't commit to that fully, you'll always be just an employee. Noted. I left before he could say more. Walked past the celebration, grabbed my coat, headed for the exit. Jennifer Park watched me leave, expression unreadable. Outside, the September evening was cool, clear. I walked toward the subway, hands in pockets, processing the conversation. Hardman was exactly who I'd known he was from day one, bitter, vengeful, using the firm as a weapon against Jessica and Harvey. The Carlson settlement proved I wouldn't be his unquestioning weapon. That made me valuable but dangerous. Partnership was still possible. But it would come with strings, expectations that I'd prioritize Hardman's revenge over client interests, that I'd be willing to sacrifice professional ethics for personal vendettas. My phone buzzed. Multiple emails from other firms, all with subject lines like, interested in speaking with you, and potential opportunity to discuss. Word traveled fast in legal circles. Scott Roden took on Harvey Specter and Jessica Pearson simultaneously and achieved favorable settlement. That reputation was portable. I didn't need Hardman's firm to succeed anymore. Blackmail archive, strategic assessment. Daniel Hardman, relationship deteriorating, partnership value declining, conditional on unethical behavior, alternative options, multiple firms expressing interest, recommendation, begin exploring exit strategy within 6 to 12 months. I dismissed the notification and kept walking. Not ready to leave yet, still had cases to finish, still had clients who depended on me. But the seed was planted. Hardman and Associates had served its purpose. I'd proven myself, built reputation, established portable client relationships. The question was timing. Leave too soon and I looked disloyal. Stay too long and I became complicit in Hardman's vendetta-driven practice. I called Donna. She answered on the second ring. How was the celebration? Hollow. Hardman's unhappy. I settled instead of destroying Harvey and Jessica completely. So he's exactly who you thought he was when you joined? Yes. The question is how long before that becomes a real problem. Donna was quiet for a moment. You know you don't have to stay there. You've built enough reputation to go anywhere. Plenty of firms would hire you tomorrow. I know, but I have clients here. Cases pending. Walking away now would hurt them. So you'll stay until it doesn't hurt them. That's very you. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. You calculate everything except your own exit strategies. You'll stay at Hardman's firm managing his impossible personality until it implodes, same way I stayed with Harvey for 12 years. She wasn't wrong. I'd built a career on strategic thinking, but my personal decisions were reactive rather than proactive. I adapted to circumstances instead of creating them. What changed for you? I asked. What made you finally draw lines with Harvey? You did. You showed me what it looked like to choose your own path instead of managing someone else's. Maybe I'm returning the favor, showing you what it looks like to recognize when something's run its course. We talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important. Her sister's wedding drama, my search for a better apartment, whether the Knicks would ever be good again. Normal conversation between two people who'd chosen each other despite every complication. After we hung up, I kept walking. The subway could wait. The city was pleasant in September, summer heat fading, fall not quite arrived, that brief perfect window. I'd won the Carlson case. Proven myself against the best. Built reputation that would last beyond any single firm. The victory was real, even if it didn't feel as satisfying as expected. Sometimes winning wasn't about destroying your opponent. Sometimes it was about achieving objectives efficiently, serving clients professionally, maintaining principles under pressure. Hardman wanted blood. I delivered results. That disconnect would create problems eventually. But tonight, I'd just accept the win and deal with the consequences tomorrow. The war was over. New battles would come. They always did. 61, Chapter 61, The Quiet Months, Montage. Chapter 61, The Quiet Months, Montage. September bled into October with the kind of routine that felt almost suspicious. No hostile takeovers. No Harvey breathing down my neck. Just work good, solid, billable work that didn't require warfare. I juggled 3 cases simultaneously. A contract interpretation dispute for Robert Chen's FlowPay. They'd signed a vendor agreement that was ambiguous about liability caps, now facing a lawsuit over service interruption. A shareholder derivative suit defense for a mid-sized manufacturing company whose board made questionable acquisition decisions. And a trademark infringement claim where my client had unknowingly adopted branding similar to a regional competitor. None were dramatic. All were professionally executed. The contract case settled after I found precedent establishing that ambiguous liability provisions favored the party that didn't draft them. FlowPay walked away paying $30,000 instead of $300,000. Robert sent a case of wine to my office with a note, "This is why we keep you on retainer." The derivative suit got dismissed on summary judgment. I proved the board had followed proper procedures and business judgment rule protected their decisions. The trademark case settled with my client agreeing to minor branding changes and zero damages. Win rate calculator, performance summary. Cases resolved, September-October 3/3 successful outcomes. Average success probability, 68% client satisfaction, 94% status, building consistent track record. 3 wins in 2 months. Not flashy, not newsworthy, just competent legal work that made clients happy and generated steady fees. This was what partnership looked like from the ground up. Reliable excellence rather than dramatic victories. Weekends developed their own rhythm. Saturday mornings at the Union Square Farmers Market with Donna, buying vegetables we'd probably not cook, coffee from that vendor who remembered our order, walking aimlessly through crowds while talking about nothing important. Sunday mornings with the time spread across my couch, racing to finish the crossword first. Donna usually won because she was better at the obscure wordplay clues I overthought. Weeknight dinners when work allowed. That Thai place in Midtown. The Italian spot near her apartment. Sometimes just takeout and terrible reality TV, her head on my shoulder, comfortable silence. 8 months together. Longest relationship for both of us. Neither of us said the word love. But it hung in the air between comfortable silences, in the way she kept a toothbrush at my apartment without discussing it, in how I'd started thinking about lease renewals in terms of we instead of I. One Saturday in late October, walking through the market, she stopped at a flower vendor and bought sunflowers. Bright yellow, almost aggressive in their cheerfulness. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "No occasion. They're happy flowers. We need happy flowers." She said it casually, but I caught the undertone. Harvey had been difficult lately. Shorter temper, longer hours, that particular tension that meant something was bothering him beyond normal work stress. Is Harvey okay? Define okay. He's functional. He's winning cases. But he's also paranoid lately. Keeps getting mysterious phone calls he won't explain. Asks me weird questions about firm finances that aren't in my wheelhouse. We walked to a coffee cart, ordered overpriced lattes. The October air had that perfect temperature, cool enough for sweaters, warm enough for outdoor seating. Paranoid about what? I asked. He won't say, but I think it's about Hardman. He's been asking Lewis to track Hardman's activities, checking on which former Pearson Hardman associates Hardman's been recruiting, monitoring firm gossip. I thought about that. Hardman had been acting strange to closed-door meetings with people I didn't recognize, cryptic phone calls about the vote, financial transfers he didn't explain when I asked about billables, blackmail archive, pattern recognition. Daniel Hardman, suspicious behavior flagged, data points, undisclosed meetings, 12, cryptic references to voting, 4, financial irregularities, 3, Harvey Specter, parallel paranoia, insufficient data for conclusions, recommendation, monitor situation. Probably just normal rivalry, I said. Hardman versus Harvey, eternal grudge match, nothing new. But Donna gave me that look, the one that said she knew I was minimizing something I'd noticed too. Maybe, but Harvey's instincts are usually good. If he thinks Hardman's planning something, Hardman's probably planning something. We dropped it and moved to easier topics. Her sister's wedding was in 2 weeks. Donna was maid of honor, stressed about the speech she had to give. My lease was up in January, looking at better apartments, places with showers that actually worked and kitchens big enough for 2 people to occupy simultaneously. That afternoon, lying on my couch with her half asleep against my shoulder, I realized how much my life had changed in 9 months. Left Pearson Hardman as a dismissed associate with something to prove. Built a practice at Hardman's firm. Beat Harvey and Jessica in major litigation. Fell into a relationship that felt more real than any calculation the system could generate. The person I'd been when I first transmigratal strategy, no substance, felt distant. That version of Scott would have optimized every decision, treated Donna as an asset, measured success purely in career metrics. This version just existed in the moment, grateful for comfortable silence and happy flowers and Saturday morning farmers markets. My phone buzzed. Work email from Hardman, partnership discussion scheduled November 1st. Prepare presentation on your vision for the firm's future. Donna felt me tense. Work. Partnership meeting scheduled. Hardman wants me to present vision for the firm. She sat up, studied me. That's good, right? That's what you've been working toward. Yeah, just wondering what vision for the firm means to him versus what it means to me. Same thing that loyalty means different things to Harvey. Power and control versus mutual respect. She kissed my shoulder through my shirt. You'll figure it out. You always do. Daniel Hardman. Hardman reviewed the partnership proposal for Scott Roden. 8 months at the firm. Consistent victories. Strong client relationships. Reputation for technical excellence. On paper, perfect partnership candidate. But Scott had disappointed him. The Carlson settlement was strategic but not vengeful. Professional but not destructive. Scott served clients instead of Hardman's agenda. That made him valuable. It also made him unreliable for the larger plan. Hardman pulled up his secret files, the financial records he'd been hiding, the voting bloc he'd been assembling, the strategy for retaking Pearson Hardman that he'd been building for 2 years. Scott was too ethical to be part of that plan. But he was too good to let go until after the takeover succeeded. Partnership would keep him loyal for 6 more months. Long enough to use him as cover, as proof that Hardman and Associates was legitimate operation rather than revenge vehicle. After that, Scott's principles would become a problem. But problems could be managed once Hardman had reclaimed his seat at Pearson Hardman. First, secure the weapon. Then, deploy it. Then, discard it when no longer useful. Simple business. Scott Roden. October ended with a cold snap, early winter flexing muscles. I worked through the final days of the month closing out my 3 routine cases, billing hours, drafting client reports. Halloween night, I stayed late at the office finishing a brief. The building was mostly empty, a few associates grinding, cleaning crew making rounds. Around 9 p.m., I took a break, walked the halls stretching my legs. Past Hardman's office. Light was on, door slightly ajar. I heard voices, Hardman's and someone I didn't recognize. Stopped, not quite eavesdropping but not quite walking away either. The votes are secured. 3 partners confirmed, 2 more likely. That's majority. And the financial evidence? Buried in accounts they won't check. Jessica's too busy with current cases to audit properly. By the time she discovers it, the vote will be done. Timeline. January. Right after holidays when everyone's distracted. I moved away before they could hear me, heart pounding. Votes. Financial evidence. Jessica. Timeline in January. Hardman wasn't just running a firm. He was planning something bigger. Something involving Pearson Hardman. Something that required secrecy and financial manipulation. Back in my office, I pulled up the firm's financial records I had access to. Nothing looked obviously wrong, but I wasn't looking at partner-level accounts. Those required elevated permissions I didn't have. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna. Still working? Yeah. Finishing brief. Weird question. Has Harvey mentioned anything about Hardman and January? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Why? Just something I overheard. Might be nothing. Harvey's been obsessed with Hardman's plans. Keeps saying something's coming but won't explain. What did you hear? Not sure. But I think Hardman's planning more than just competing with Pearson Hardman. Be careful. Whatever's happening, you don't want to be collateral damage. I stared at that message for a long moment. Collateral damage. That's exactly what I'd be if Hardman's plan exploded. The associate who worked for the firm when it imploded, guilty by association even if uninvolved. The system whispered warnings about insufficient data, need for more information, recommendation to extract myself before complications escalated. For once, I agreed with its assessment. Partnership meeting in 2 weeks. I'd present my vision, accept the offer, secure my position. Then I'd start quietly building my exit strategy. 6 months, maybe less. Long enough to transition clients, finish pending cases, leave professionally. Because whatever Hardman was planning, I didn't want to be part of it when it detonated. The storm was coming. I just needed to make sure I wasn't standing in the blast radius. 62, Chapter 62, The TechVista Resolution. Chapter 62, The TechVista Resolution. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Federal courthouse but specialized patent docket, designed for technical testimony rather than dramatic performance. Perfect for my case. Terrible for Harvey's style. Judge Morrison was 60, former patent examiner, known for favoring evidence over emotion. She'd read every brief, understood the technical issues, would rule on facts rather than persuasion. Harvey's nightmare. My advantage. Opening statement started at 9 a.m. Harvey went first, standing without notes, commanding the room the way he always did. Your Honor, this case is about theft. Not the kind where someone breaks a window, the kind where they steal ideas, steal innovation, steal years of research and development. Cloud9 Technologies spent 5 years and $12 million creating their compression algorithm. Then TechVista comes along, launches a remarkably similar product, and claims it's just coincidence. That's not coincidence. That's corporate piracy. His voice had that particular cadence, the emotional resonance that made juries believe him. But Judge Morrison's expression didn't change. She was waiting for facts, not narrative. I stood for my opening, stayed at the podium, referenced my notes deliberately. Your Honor, this case is about independent development and mathematical impossibility. TechVista began research on compression algorithms in January 2008, 18 months before Cloud9 filed their patent application. Every stage of development is documented: initial research papers, prototype code commits, design evolution, mathematical proofs. We'll show that TechVista's algorithm uses completely different methodology: predictive modeling versus dictionary-based compression. The similarity of outcomes: efficient data compression is like saying two bridges are the same because they both cross rivers. Similar goals, different engineering. Judge Morrison nodded slightly. Proceed with evidence. The trial took 3 days. Harvey presented Cloud9's patent, their development timeline, expert testimony about algorithmic similarity. All competently done. All missing the key point: independent development made infringement legally impossible regardless of similarity. My turn came day 2. Dr. Patricia Wong took the stand, swore in, provided credentials. 20 years patent expertise, 40+ cases, impeccable record. Dr. Wong, have you reviewed both algorithms in question? I have, extensively. I've analyzed source code, mathematical foundations, implementation details, performance characteristics. What's your professional opinion on their similarity? They achieve similar outcomes through fundamentally different methodologies. Cloud9's algorithm uses dictionary-based compression, precomputing common patterns and referencing them during compression. TechVista's uses predictive modeling, analyzing data streams in real time and adapting compression dynamically. It's the difference between having a phrase book and learning a language. Harvey cross-examined aggressively, trying to undermine her credibility, suggesting bias, implying she'd been paid to reach favorable conclusions. Dr. Wong, TechVista is paying for your testimony, correct? They're paying for my time and expertise. They're not paying for specific conclusions. But you knew what conclusion they wanted when they hired you. I knew what they believed about their development process. My job was determining if that belief was technically accurate. It was. Convenient timing, isn't it? TechVista claims they started 18 months before Cloud9 filed, right when it would be legally advantageous. The timing isn't convenient. Is documented. Git repositories with cryptographic timestamps, email threads with external timestamps from mail servers, design documents with creation metadata, all independently verifiable. Harvey kept pushing, but Dr. Wong was unshakable. Every question got answered with technical specificity that made emotional appeals look hollow. Argument crusher: real-time analysis. Harvey's cross-examination effectiveness, 34% witness credibility, maintained at 91%. Judge response, favorable to defense testimony. Recommendation, minimal redirect, let testimony stand. I did brief redirect, clarified 2 technical points Harvey had confused, then let her testimony speak for itself. Day 3 was closing arguments. Harvey went emotional again, talking about protecting innovation, preventing theft, ensuring small companies could compete against those who'd steal their work. I stayed technical. Your Honor, the evidence shows 3 incontrovertible facts. First, TechVista began development 18 months before Cloud9 filed their patent. Second, the algorithms use fundamentally different methodologies. Third, every stage of TechVista's development is documented with independently verifiable timestamps. Cloud9's case relies on the assumption that similar outcomes must mean copying. But that assumption ignores technical reality. There are multiple solutions to any engineering problem. TechVista found one solution. Cloud9 found another. Both are valid. Neither infringes the other. Judge Morrison didn't take long. She ruled from the bench after a 10-minute recess. I've reviewed the evidence carefully. Defendant has proven by preponderance of evidence that independent development occurred. The documented timeline, the technical differences, and the expert testimony all support the conclusion that TechVista created their algorithm without knowledge of or access to Cloud9's patent. Plaintiff's infringement claim is dismissed. Defendant is entitled to costs. Clean victory. Complete vindication. Exactly what I'd promised Amanda Cross 5 months ago. Harvey packed his materials professionally, no visible reaction. Outside the courtroom, he stopped me in the hallway. You're better at technical litigation than I am, he said. I waited for the qualifier, the excuse, the explanation that it wasn't really a loss. That's not an insult, Harvey continued. It's recognition. You prepared that case perfectly. Expert testimony was bulletproof. Opening and closing were exactly right for that judge. I would have won with a jury. You won with a specialist. That's good lawyering. Thanks. Don't let it go to your head. Next time we're in front of a jury, I'll destroy you. But he smiled slightly. See you around, Roden. He left. I stood in the courthouse hallway, processing. Harvey Specter had just acknowledged my skill without qualification or excuse. That meant something. My phone rang. Amanda Cross. We won, I said. Completely. Judge dismissed the case. No damages, no licensing fees, no ongoing liability. You're clear. Scott, you're a miracle worker. Send me the retention agreement. Whatever legal work we need going forward, you're our attorney. After we hung up, I walked out into November cold. Another client in my portable portfolio. Another case proving I could win at the highest level. Another step toward independence from any single firm. System notification, professional milestone. Major litigation victories, 3, Kessler, Carlson, TechVista, client retention rate, 96% portable client base, established market value, senior associate/junior partner level independence threshold, achieved. I dismissed the notification and called Hardman to report the victory. He answered on the second ring. How'd it go? We won. Complete dismissal. Clients thrilled. Excellent. When you're back, let's discuss what's next. That phrase, what's next, carried weight. Partnership discussions were scheduled for next week. Hardman had plans. I'd overheard enough to know those plans were bigger than I understood. The question was whether what's next for Hardman aligned with what's next for me. Probably not. But I'd deal with that after securing partnership. One battle at a time. I got on the subway, found a seat, closed my eyes. Victory should feel better than this, should feel triumphant instead of just completed. Maybe I was tired. 5 months of technical patent litigation, thousands of hours of research, countless drafts and revisions. The win was real even if the satisfaction felt muted. Or maybe I was just recognizing that winning cases wasn't enough anymore. Building a career on competence was good, but building a career on someone else's vendetta even competently was hollow. Donna had been right. I needed to figure out my own vision instead of executing Hardman's. Partnership first. Then decisions about future. The train rattled through tunnels toward my stop. Tomorrow I'd start preparing my partnership presentation. Vision for the firm's future, Hardman had said. I'd give him vision, just probably not the one he expected. The war continued, just with different battles. 63, Chapter 63, The Donna Weekend. Chapter 63, The Donna Weekend. The cabin was 2 hours north of the city, tucked into woods near Lake Placid. Small, rustic, the kind of place that advertised digital detox because the cell service was non-existent rather than by design. Donna had found it on some rental website, booked it for the weekend without asking my opinion. Just sent me the address Friday afternoon with a message, pack a bag. We're leaving at 5. No work allowed. Now, standing on the porch with our bags, looking at the tiny structure that would be our entire world for 48 hours, my system was having a minor crisis. System alert, connectivity lost. No cellular service detected, unable to access external databases, limited functionality, local processing only, recommendation, return to service area. I dismissed it and followed Donna inside. The cabin was one large room, kitchenette in the corner, bed against the far wall, fireplace dominating the center, small bathroom through a door that probably didn't close properly. Everything was wood, walls, floor, ceiling. It smelled like pine and old fires and the particular mustiness of places that stayed empty most of the year. What do you think? Donna asked, setting down her bag. It's small. It's cozy. There's no TV. There's a fireplace and books and us. We don't need TV. I walked to the window. Trees everywhere, lake visible through gaps in the foliage, no other structures in sight. Complete isolation. No work, no cases, no strategy. My hands itched for my phone to check emails. Scott. Donna's voice was gentle but firm. Put the phone away. I'm not. You're thinking about work. I can see it on your face. That particular expression you get when you're running probability calculations. I set my bag down, forced my shoulders to relax. I don't know how to do this. The not working thing. I know, that's why we're here. She started unpacking groceries we'd bought on the drive up. We're going to spend 48 hours not being Harvey's secretary and Hardman's associate. We're just going to be Scott and Donna. Think you can handle that? I can try. That's all I'm asking. We spent the afternoon settling in. I built a fire badly, taking 3 tries to get it started properly while Donna organized the kitchen. Made sandwiches for lunch. Walked down to the lake, throwing rocks into the water like children, watching ripples spread and disappear. The quiet was unnerving. No city noise, no sirens, no car horns. Just wind and trees, water lapping at shoreline, birds calling to each other. My system kept trying to fill the silence with calculations, probability models about relationship longevity, strategic analysis of career trajectories. I kept shutting it down. Not now, not here. Evening came early this far north in November. We made dinner together, pasta with vegetables from the market, wine from the bottle Donna had packed. Ate sitting on the floor in front of the fireplace because the cabin's table was too small and rickety to trust. This is nice, Donna said, refilling her wine glass. It is. You sound surprised. I am, a little. I'm not good at this. At what? Sitting still, relaxing, being human. All of the above. She laughed, warm and genuine. You know what your problem is. You think everything needs to be optimized. That every moment needs a purpose. Doesn't it? No, sometimes moments just exist. They don't need to serve some larger strategy or advance some goal. They're just moments. I thought about that, watching firelight dance across her face. She was right. I approached everything, even relationship milestones, as moves in some larger game. First date. First overnight stay. First time saying you were exclusive. All checkpoints toward some objective I'd defined without examining whether the objective itself mattered. What happens if we don't plan every minute? Donna asked, reading my silence. I guess we find out. We talked for hours. About nothing important at first, childhood memories, college embarrassments, the particular ways our families had been dysfunctional. Then deeper. Do you ever wonder what you'd do if you weren't a lawyer? Donna asked, pouring the last of the wine. No, law is the only thing I've ever been good at. That's sad. I looked at her. Why? Because you're good at other things. You're good at listening when you let yourself. At caring about people beyond their strategic value. At being present instead of always calculating 3 moves ahead. She set down her glass. You're a good lawyer. But that's not all you are. Or all you could be. The words hit harder than expected. Because she was right, I'd defined myself entirely through professional achievement. Harvard Law. Pearson Hardman. Beating Harvey. Winning cases. Building reputation. Everything else was secondary, including my own identity beyond those accomplishments. I don't know how to be anything else, I said quietly. Then maybe it's time to learn. She moved closer, head on my shoulder. You don't have to stop being a lawyer. Just stop letting that be the only thing you are. We sat in comfortable silence, fire crackling, darkness complete outside the windows. The system whispered probability calculations about relationship success rates, career trajectory optimization, strategic partnership decisions. I tuned it out. Let it run its numbers in the background while I just existed in this moment with this person. Eventually we moved to the bed, exhausted from the drive and emotional honesty. Fell asleep tangled together, her breathing steady against my chest, no alarm set because tomorrow had no schedule. Sunday morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through gaps in the curtains and Donna already up, clattering around in the kitchenette. What are you doing? I asked, voice rough with sleep. Making breakfast. Go back to sleep. Can't now. I got up, pulled on jeans and a sweater, padded over to where she was attempting to mix pancake batter. She'd brought the ingredients yesterday without telling me, apparently determined to create domestic normalcy in this isolated cabin. Need help? You know how to make pancakes. I know how to follow directions on a box. We worked together in the small kitchen, bumping into each other, laughing at my terrible pancake flipping technique. The first 3 pancakes were disasters, burnt on one side, raw in the middle. The 4th was edible. The 5th was almost good. Donna laughed as I flipped the 6th pancake and it landed half on the pan, half on the stove. You're terrible at this. I'm aware. How did you survive before me? Takeout, delivery, occasionally cooking eggs. She rescued the pancake, salvaged what she could, plated it with the others. We ate standing at the counter because the table really was too small, drowning mediocre pancakes in syrup to make them palatable. In that moment, surrounded by mess, eating imperfect food, her hair unbrushed and my shirt wrinkled, something clicked. I love you, I said. Not planned, not calculated, not a strategic relationship milestone, just true. Donna stopped, fork halfway to her mouth, looked at me. Say that again. I love you. She set down her fork, moved closer. You mean that? You're not just saying it because we're having a moment. I mean it, have meant it for a while, just didn't know how to say it. She kissed me then, tasting like syrup and morning and something impossibly right. Good, she said against my lips. Because I love you too. Have for months. Why didn't you say anything? Because you needed to figure it out yourself. You needed to stop calculating and just feel it. She pulled back, smiled. Took you long enough. We spent the rest of Sunday morning cleaning up breakfast, packing our things, reluctantly preparing to return to reality. The drive back to Manhattan was quiet but comfortable, hands linked across the center console, no need for constant conversation. Around the city limits, Donna spoke. Thank you. For what? For trying. I know being spontaneous goes against every instinct you have, but you tried. You were present. That matters. Thank you for making me try. That's what people who love each other do. They make each other better. We hit Manhattan traffic, that familiar gridlock that meant we were back in the real world. Monday would bring work cases, strategy, the ongoing tension of dating across enemy firms. But we'd proven something this weekend. The relationship wasn't just surviving the pressure. It was thriving despite it. That was worth protecting. 64, Chapter 64, The Jessica Contact. Chapter 64, The Jessica Contact. The text came Tuesday afternoon, unexpected and direct. Lunch tomorrow. My treat. Neutral ground. JP. I stared at the message, trying to parse the angles. Jessica Pearson didn't reach out to opposing counsel for social lunches. This was strategic. The question was strategic toward what end? I responded, time and place. 1 p.m. Maria. Come alone. Maria. Expensive Italian place in Midtown, nowhere near either firm's usual haunts. Neutral ground indeed. I showed up exactly on time Wednesday afternoon. The restaurant was elegant white tablecloths, hushed conversations, the kind of place where deals got made over wine pairings. Jessica was already there, corner table, wine glass half empty. Scott, thank you for coming. Curiosity got the better of me. Good. Curiosity is a useful trait. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. Order whatever you want. This is my meeting, my money. I sat, ordered water from the hovering waiter. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Not drinking. Not at lunch with opposing counsel when I don't know the agenda. She smiled. Smart. That's what I like about you. Appropriate paranoia. She sipped her wine. The Carlson case. The TechVista trial. You've been busy. I represent my clients competently. That's the job. Competence is common. Excellence is rare. You're excellent. She set down her glass. That wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. What's the distinction? Compliments are social lubricant. Observations are strategic intelligence. She leaned forward slightly. I forced you out of Pearson Hardman because you built client relationships that made Harvey uncomfortable. That was political necessity, not personal judgment. Now you've proven at Hardman's firm exactly what I suspected you're legitimately good, not just promising. The waiter returned. We ordered her some pasta dish I didn't catch, me the first entree on the menu because I wasn't here for food. After he left, Jessica continued. Daniel Hardman is planning something. I don't know what yet, but I know Daniel. He didn't build a rival firm for sustainable practice. He built it for revenge. Against me, against Harvey, against the firm itself. I kept my expression neutral. What makes you think that? 20 years of watching him operate. Daniel doesn't forgive. He doesn't move on. He plots. She studied me. You're part of that plot whether you realize it or not. Every case you win against us, every client you poach, every associate you recruit, he serves his agenda. I serve my clients. I know. That's what makes you dangerous to him. You have principles. Eventually, Daniel's agenda will conflict with those principles. What happens then? I thought about the conversation I'd overheard, the cryptic references to votes and financial evidence, the timeline pointing to January. Jessica was fishing for information, but she was also warning me. What do you want from me? I asked directly. Nothing. Yet. She leaned back as our food arrived. Just remember this conversation when the time comes. Remember that I see you as an attorney with potential rather than as Hardman's weapon. We ate in careful silence for a few minutes. The food was excellent, I barely tasted it. My mind was processing Jessica's words, the implications, the strategic positioning. She wasn't recruiting me. Not exactly. She was planting seeds. Making sure that when Hardman's plan whatever it was exploded, I'd remember that Jessica had reached out, had warned me, had offered an alternative. Long game chess. Classic Jessica. Robert Zane speaks highly of you, Jessica said, cutting into her pasta. Says you did excellent work for his family's case through Eleanor Chen's connection. Robert 63. What happens to lawyers of your caliber when their mentors retire? I looked up from my food. That was a very specific question with very specific implications. I suppose they find new mentors. Or stop needing them. Robert's thinking about succession. About lawyers who could grow his firm, maintain his client relationships, embody his values. She met my eyes. Your name came up. That was unexpected. Robert Zane was legend, one of the best trial lawyers in New York, known for integrity and skill in equal measure. His firm was smaller than Pearson Hardman but more prestigious in certain circles. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm about to merge Pearson Hardman with a British firm. Edward Darby, international expansion, the usual corporate growth strategy. When that merger falls apart, and it will, things are going to be chaotic. She set down her fork. Remember people who saw your value before the chaos. Remember opportunities that exist beyond whatever wreckage Daniel leaves behind. She signaled for the check, paid without looking at the total, stood to leave. Thank you for lunch, I said. Thank you for listening. That's all I needed. She paused at the table. One more thing. Donna Paulson is the best secretary in New York and deserves better than being caught in the middle of our wars. Whatever happens between firms, I hope you're protecting her. I am. Good. She wouldn't have chosen you if you weren't worth it. Don't prove her wrong. Jessica left. I sat alone at the table, processing the entire conversation. She'd warned me about Hardman, hinted at Pearson Hardman's merger plans, mentioned Robert Zane's succession thinking, acknowledged Donna. Every piece was information I could use. Every piece was also leverage. Jessica now had she'd done me favors, created reciprocal obligations, positioned herself as potential ally. Masterclass in long-term strategic relationship building. I paid for my water, barely touched, and left. Outside, November cold bit through my coat. I walked instead of catching a cab, needed time to think. System analysis, strategic conversation mapping. Jessica Pearson objectives, 3 identified. 1. Intelligence gathering on Hardman's plans. 2. Future relationship cultivation with Scott. 3. Exit option creation for when merger fails. Tactical assessment, professional recruitment disguised as friendly warning. Recommended response, maintain contact, provide no information, keep options open. The systems analysis was accurate but incomplete. Jessica wasn't just recruiting or warning. She was demonstrating that she understood me better than Hardman did. That she saw me as an attorney rather than a weapon. That when the inevitable explosion came, she'd offer intelligent alternatives. I pulled out my phone, texted Donna, had lunch with Jessica. She's either recruiting me or warning me. Maybe both. Response came fast, she's doing both. Jessica always plays long games. What did you tell her? Nothing. But I'm listening. Good. Whatever Hardman's planning, you don't want to be collateral damage. I pocketed the phone and kept walking. Partnership meeting with Hardman was Friday. I'd present my vision for the firm, accept the offer, secure my position. Then I'd start quietly preparing for whatever explosion was coming. Because Jessica was right about one thing, Hardman was planning something. And when it detonated, I needed to be positioned to survive the blast. The system cataloged the entire lunch conversation, flagged it as strategically significant, recommended continued monitoring. For once, I agreed completely. The game was bigger than I'd realized. More players, more stakes, more complications than just opposing Pearson Hardman in court. I was going to need help navigating it. Good thing I had Donna. And apparently, Jessica was positioning herself as another resource. The question was whether I'd need them. Friday's partnership meeting would probably provide some answers. Until then, I'd just keep my head down, do the work, and prepare for whatever came next. The storm was still coming. I just needed to make sure I had an umbrella when it hit. 65, Chapter 65, The Holiday Season. Chapter 65, The Holiday Season. The firm holiday party was exactly what I expected: forced cheer in a conference room decorated with grocery store tinsel, cheap wine in plastic cups, associates making small talk while calculating who was winning partnership race. I stood near the window nursing a beer, watching the dynamics. Jennifer Park held court with 3 junior associates, laughing too loudly at something that probably wasn't funny. The partners clustered in their own circle, discussing cases in hushed tones. Hardman moved between groups, playing benevolent boss, everyone performing their roles. Quite the celebration, someone said behind me. I turned. Jennifer, wine glass in hand, smile not reaching her eyes. It's nice, I said neutrally. Must be nice being Hardman's golden boy. Partnership discussions, major cases, all the best assignments. She sipped her wine. Some of us have been here longer, worked harder, but somehow you're the favorite. I won cases. That's the job. You won cases against Pearson Hardman, which is what Hardman cares about. The rest of us could cure cancer through litigation and he wouldn't notice. She moved closer, voice dropping. Just remember, favorites fall. And when you fall, none of us will catch you. She walked away before I could respond. I watched her rejoin her group, animated and laughing again like the conversation hadn't happened. The party felt smaller after that. My victories had isolated me. I'd climbed faster than the associates who'd been here longer, earned Hardman's attention at their expense, become the measuring stick they resented rather than the colleague they respected. Success bred isolation. Another lesson the system hadn't needed to teach me. I left early, citing casework. No one seemed sorry to see me go. Saturday afternoon, Donna and I hit the Union Square Holiday Market, that annual chaos of wooden stalls selling handmade crafts, overpriced food, tourists taking photos of everything. We weren't shopping for anything specific, just walking, drinking hot cider, enjoying the December cold. How was your firm party? Donna asked, examining a table of handmade jewelry. Lonely. Turns out being good at your job makes people resent you. Welcome to corporate law. Harvey's been lonely for 12 years. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. She picked up a silver bracelet, held it to the light. Harvey's lonely because he chose to be. You're lonely because you're better than the people around you. Different causes, same result. We moved to the next stall. Vintage ornaments, some beautiful, most tacky. Donna found one shaped like a typewriter, laughed. Remember when offices had these? I remember seeing them in museums. God, you're young. We turned a corner and nearly collided with Harvey Specter and Mike Ross, both carrying shopping bags, both looking as surprised as we felt. 4 seconds of awkward silence. Then Harvey nodded curtly. Donna, Roden. Harvey, Mike. Donna's voice was professionally neutral. Mike smiled, genuinely friendly. Holiday shopping. Just browsing, I said. More awkward silence. A family pushed past us, kids arguing about which stall to visit next. The moment stretched. Well, Harvey said. Enjoy your afternoon. He walked away without waiting for response. Mike hesitated, looked between us, then followed. After they disappeared into the crowd, Donna exhaled. That was terrible. Yeah. He's still angry. About us. He'll get over it. Will he? She linked her arm through mine. Harvey holds grudges. Professional ones, personal ones, all of them. We're both on his grudge list now. We kept walking, but the holiday magic felt diminished. Harvey's presence had been brief but oppressive, a reminder that our relationship existed in opposition to people who had power over both our careers. Mike caught up to us 2 stalls later, Harvey nowhere in sight. Sorry about that, Mike said. Harvey's not handling this well. You and Donna, I mean. That's Harvey's problem, I said. Maybe, but it's your complication. And Donna's. He looked at Donna. He's been impossible at work. Everything's a battle. Nothing's good enough. You leaving early twice last week sent him into a 3-hour spiral about loyalty. I'm entitled to a personal life, Donna said quietly. I know, he doesn't. Mike shrugged. Just, be careful. Both of you. Harvey doesn't separate personal from professional. This thing between you two is going to keep bleeding into work. He left, rejoining Harvey somewhere in the crowd. Donna and I stood in sudden silence. We knew this would be complicated, I said. Knowing something intellectually and experiencing it emotionally are different. She pulled her coat tighter. Let's go home. I'm done with holiday markets. We walked back to her apartment, quiet but together. The complications were real. Harvey's anger was real. The professional risks were real. But so was this. So was us. We'd figure it out. We had to. New Year's Eve, we stayed in Donna's apartment, takeout from that Italian place we both loved, wine that was probably too expensive for what we were celebrating but felt appropriate anyway. Around 11, lying on her couch watching the Times Square coverage with the sound muted, Donna asked, "What was your best moment this year?" I thought about that. Beating Harvey in the Kessler case. Settling the Carlson takeover. Winning the Tech Vista trial. All professional victories, all meaningful. The cabin weekend, I said. When I told you I loved you. She smiled, surprised. Really? Not the big case wins. Those were victories. The cabin was real. The first time I wasn't calculating, wasn't performing, just being. That's growth. She refilled our wine glasses. My best moment was when I told Harvey no. About us. When I chose my own life over his comfort. That took courage. So did the cabin. You're terrified of not being in control. Spontaneity is your nightmare. But you tried anyway. We talked through the final hour of the year, reviewing everything that had changed. Scott went from fired associate to respected litigator. Donna went from Harvey's secretary to her own person, still working for him but no longer defined by him. Both of us found partnership instead of just relationship. At midnight, fireworks exploded over Manhattan, visible through her windows, the entire city celebrating new beginnings. We kissed, wine-flavored and certain, two people who'd chosen each other against every complication. Whatever comes next year, we handle it together, Donna said. Promise. My system whispered probability calculations about 2013 potential job changes, relationship stressors, professional conflicts. I dismissed them all. For once, I didn't need the numbers. I had something better. Someone worth protecting regardless of odds. The year ended wrapped around each other, city lights our only illumination, no idea what January would bring but confident we'd navigate it. Together. That was the only calculation that mattered. 66, Chapter 66, The New Year Case. Chapter 66, The New Year Case. Hardman called me into his office on January 2, no preliminaries. Silverpoint Capital. Hedge fund, $8 billion under management, currently under SEC investigation for insider trading. They need defense counsel. I'm assigning you. He slid a folder across his desk. I opened it, scanned the summary. SEC had flagged suspicious trading patterns. Silverpoint took large positions in 3 companies days before major announcements, profited substantially, timing seemed too convenient for legitimate research. What's the exposure? Worst case? Criminal charges, fund dissolution, personal liability for principals. Best case? Civil penalties, reputation damage, investor flight. Hardman leaned back. This is partnership track work. Win this, we begin formal discussions next month. There it was. The carrot and the stick. Prove myself on the highest stakes case yet, or watch partnership slip away. When do I meet the client? Tomorrow. Video conference, 10 a.m. Read everything tonight. I want your preliminary assessment by morning. I took the folder back to my office, closed the door, started reading. The SEC's case was circumstantial but strong. Silverpoint made 3 major trades in December. First, bought substantial stake in pharmaceutical company 3 days before FDA approval announcement. Stock rose 47%. Second, shorted manufacturing company 2 days before earnings miss announcement. Stock fell 33%. Third, bought tech company positions 1 day before acquisition announcement. Stock rose 62%. Individually, any could be explained by research and analysis. Together, the pattern suggested non-public information. Win rate calculator, initial assessment. SEC case strength, substantial, 78% probability they have legitimate case, defense success probability, 41%, 16%. Key variables, existence of smoking gun evidence, client truthfulness, ability to prove legitimate research recommendation, demand complete candor from client before proceeding, 41%. Not great odds. But SEC investigations often relied on circumstantial evidence. If I could prove Silverpoint's trades were based on sophisticated analysis of public information, the case collapsed. I kept reading. Hours passed. Pizza delivery around 7 p.m., eaten at my desk while reviewing trading documentation. The timing was suspicious, but the analysis was thorough. Silverpoint employed 12 PhDs, published detailed research reports, had documented methodologies. Maybe they were just very good at their job. Then I found the email. Buried in discovery documents, dated 2 days before the pharmaceutical trade. From Silverpoint's managing partner to the head trader. Our friend at the company confirmed the timeline. Proceed as discussed. Discretion essential. I read it 3 times. Our friend at the company. Confirmed the timeline. Discretion essential. That wasn't smoking gun. But it was smoke. And smoke suggested fire. System alert, potential ethical violation. Evidence suggests possible insider trading. Client may have obtained non-public material information. Attorney obligation, cannot assist criminal activity. Recommendation, confront client, demand truthful explanation. If client admits crime, withdrawal may be required. I sat back, rubbing my eyes. This case just became exponentially more complicated. I couldn't defend a client I knew was guilty. but I also couldn't abandon them without understanding the full context. The email was ambiguous. Our friend could be public investor relations contact. Confirmed the timeline could refer to publicly available information about approval processes. Discretion essential could just be standard confidentiality practice. Or it could be exactly what it looked like insider trading. I needed to know which. Before I proceeded, before I built strategy, before I committed to defense. Because if Silverpoint actually committed insider trading, my job wasn't defending theme, it was managing withdrawal without violating attorney-client privilege. Professional ethics still mattered. Even in January. Even when partnership dangled as motivation. I pulled up my phone, sent email to client contact, need in-person meeting before our scheduled conference. Important questions about trading documentation. Can you come to office tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.? Response came within minutes. Is there a problem? Just questions that need answering before we proceed. Standard due diligence. I'll be there. I shut down my computer, grabbed my coat, headed home. Outside, January cold bit through everything. The holidays were over. The new year had arrived with complications already stacking. My phone buzzed. Text from Donna. How's the new case? Complicated. Potential ethical issues. Might be defending actual criminals. What are you going to do? Demand the truth. Then decide if I can represent them. That's the right answer. Proud of you. I smiled despite the stress. Having someone who understood the principle versus pragmatism battle, who supported choosing principle even when costly, made the hard decisions easier. The subway was mostly empty, post-holiday lull. I found a seat, closed my eyes, thought about tomorrow's meeting. I'd ask direct questions. Demand honest answers. If the client admitted insider trading, I'd have to withdraw. If they denied it convincingly, I'd defend them aggressively. But I wouldn't build a defense on lies. Wouldn't compromise my ethics to win Hardman's approval. Wouldn't sacrifice principles for partnership. That line between zealous advocacy and criminal complicity was bright and clear. I wouldn't cross it, even if it cost me everything I'd built. The train reached my stop. I climbed stairs to street level, walked the final blocks home. My apartment was cold, empty, quiet. I turned on lights, made tea, sat on my couch staring at nothing. Tomorrow I'd confront a client who might be guilty, might lose the case that determined partnership, might have to choose between career advancement and professional integrity. But at least I'd make that choice consciously, deliberately, with full understanding of what I was sacrificing and why. The system calculated probabilities: career damage if I withdrew, partnership risk, reputation impact. All valid concerns. All secondary to the primary question. What kind of lawyer did I want to be? The answer was clear. I wanted to be the kind who slept at night, who looked at himself in the mirror without flinching, who chose principle over advancement when those goals conflicted. Everything else was just noise. Tomorrow would bring answers. For tonight, I'd just rest and prepare for whatever truth the client revealed. The year was already getting complicated, but at least I knew who I was in the chaos. That had to count for something.
Hi guys. I made a paid service in Telegram where you will find a great collection of fanfiction audiobooks organized and regularly updated. What you get: an unlimited access to the full audiobook library. New fanfiction audiobooks added regularly. You can play audios directly from Telegram anytime. Joining our service is available through a monthly subscription of $5. You can pay using PayPal or Ko-fi. So what are you waiting for? Send me a message on Telegram or Discord. I will provide the payment details. After the payment is confirmed, you will receive access to the private Telegram channel containing all audiobooks. If you enjoy fanfiction and prefer listening instead of reading, this library is made for you. Message me anytime to join.